Let's get started. I want to welcome everybody here. Welcome you guys here to Beyond the Cave podcast. It's a live recording day at Kingdom Life Ministries. And I want to thank you guys all for showing up today. We're actually talking about men's health. Men's health, a very important topic. And I have a beautiful cast on stage with me today. They have a lot of information. They actually share a lot of authority in their communities, and they're going to be able to talk to us about men's health from their point of view, their perspective. I'm going to introduce my cast as we go around here, but I'll be asking them one important question. I want them to check in with one word on mentally how they're feeling today. All right, we're gonna start all the way down there with Julio. Introduce yourself and give me that one word about how you're feeling, please, sir.
Hello, I'm Fernando Hodges, and my one word would be coping.
Why is that, sir?
Oftentimes things come your way. Sometimes you have an answer, sometimes you don't. You just cope with it. Try to deal with it, figure out whether you got to go through that mountain, over that mountain, or around that mountain.
That's good. All right, next up.
Good afternoon. My name is John Porter, and the word that I would have to use would definitely be stress.
Whoa, okay, explain, brother.
A lot of times people don't understand what goes on when you're trying to plan an event. Things happen, you have to pivot and adjust. And one thing that I've learned that stuff is happening, you just have to roll with the punches, and you have to be able to have the willingness to pivot and navigate.
Very true. Good point. Next up.
My name is Jesse C. Hicks Jr. If you all don't know that, I'm a junior.
I didn't know
And my word that describes my mental right now is faithful. Faithful.
Why is that?
Because a lot of times, especially us as men, we deal with stuff and we hold it in. We don't share it with people. And so I try to share it with God, and it just renews my faith in who He is and what He's doing. Because a lot of times, the person you're going to talk to most of your life is yourself. And sometimes when I'm talking to myself, I don't get the message. So I have to rely on God sometimes to kind of get me through it.
That's good. That's good. Next up, man of the house.
I'm Dominic Johnson. My word would be grateful. You hear? Yeah. You got it on the black? No, all right. It was you talking, Jim. My word would be grateful.
Why is that, sir?
Man, despite everything I've went through, gone through, or going through, I'm still here, and get to share this stage with some great men of God.
Go ahead. Next up.
Right here.
I am testing. I'm Stephen Jones. I think my words would be anxious yet focused. He talks about coping. So I got a lot of different things. We're on spring break right now, so there's a lot of different things that I really, really need to get completed by the end of the week. So I'm anxious about doing it because some necessary things I have to do, but I'm focused.
It's good to know. And I don't know if I introduced myself the first time around. My name is Toy McCoy, and my one word would be amazing. Amazing because amazing can have a negative or a positive connotation depending on what's going on. But as of right now, life is amazing for me. Things are happening that are overwhelmingly great, and then certain things are happening that are overwhelmingly bad. One thing I want to say though is, as men, there's one thing that I know we all watch Marvel movies, right? Remember that one scene in the Marvel movie when Mark Ruffalo plays the Hulk, and they go, "Hey, you got to get angry." He's like, "Hey, I'm always angry." That's essentially kind of how men are. We are always angry. We modify and we handle it any kind of way we can, but we are always angry. So, fellas, if you don't mind me asking, I'll start with you, John. When was the last time you checked in with another brother about kind of like how we just did just now about where they're at mentally? Like, how do you check in with brothers on where they're at mentally?
For me, I'm big on texting and sometimes picking up the phone, because sometimes when somebody crosses your mind, that's your indicator to reach out to them and just to say, "Hey man, I'm just calling to check in on you. Just want to make sure everything's good. You need anything? How you feeling and how you doing?" So and I actually just did that this morning.
Good. Okay. That's a good thing to check in. A lot of times as men, I know a lot of women always think, "Oh, you guys have your own tribe. You guys check in with each other." It's not that simple. A lot of men have it hard to talk about their emotions. We all know everyone has pillars, right? You have the emotional pillar, you have the financial pillar, the spiritual pillar, of course, the mental pillar, and of course, just Financially, I think if I mentioned that before, you have all those different pillars that you actually lean on to be strong. And sometimes as men, we don't check in with each other to find out how strong we are. Steve, this question's for you. Why do men feel comfortable talking about money, sports, and women, but uncomfortable talking about their health?
I think an easy way to look at that is avoidance, rejection. No, avoidance replacement. So basically what that is you avoid the real situation. So for instance, you avoid what you're really going through and you go replace it with smoking weed. We avoid different things. And so mentally, we rather go talk about those issues to replace what's really, really going on with us. So whether it's our health, whether it's our stress, the different things that we go through, we rather replace them. We avoid that and we replace it with things such as going to the gym. So we'll talk about instead of talking about our blood pressure, our diastolic and systolic, we'll talk about sets versus reps. Instead of talking about our sugar level, we come back in and we talk about what we're going to do when we get to the gym. We talk about that. We talk about what times we go to the gym. Instead of talking about checkups, we talk about check-in. When we check into the gym, rather than just get the checkups that we really, really need as men. So it's avoidance, replacement.
I think also is
Go ahead, Julio.
vulnerability, right? Because everybody up here got somebody who depends on them, right? And so everybody up here has somebody who sees them as their Superman. So you feel vulnerable when you aren't there. And I think vulnerability is the biggest thing because no matter how big or how we're feeling or how bad or what's going on, we want to always be that Superman to that person who depends on it.
Yeah, vulnerability is very big. John, you got something you want to say?
And I'm gonna be and vulnerability. A lot of times, brothers don't want to admit it, but brothers are scared to go to the doctor, and that's one of the reasons why they don't want to go. They try, because we have people that depend on us. We might not have the time for them, and so we, because we're the breadwinner, we're the protector, we're the provider. We have to keep on going, keep going, keep going. And so by the time you say that ache in your stomach, by the time you go to the doctor, it could be too late. So a lot of times we're honestly scared.
Hold that mic, sir. Thank you.
You know what? That is true. We will be scared. Interestingly enough, you mentioned things about going to the doctor. Just to show that vulnerability, from my panel right here on stage, in the last 3 months, the year just started, how many of y'all been to the doctor? Raise your hand. That's what I'm talking. Oh, wait a minute, sir. I got 2 right here.
It was my time all day.
It wasn't your time? That's all right.
We had 3 months.
The last 3 months. That's okay then. That's perfect. As long as we know that going to the doctor is very important. Of course, one of the major things that men have a problem with, like you guys mentioned, is vulnerability. There are a lot of things that we do in our lives that we can't be vulnerable about. One of them is, of course, going to the doctor. And one of them, again, and I don't know if it's going to pass a plate for what he just said. He said sex versus reps. I heard that and I was like, oh, that's a whole word right there. So that's the thing that we focus on. Sometimes we focus on the wrong things. And focus on the right things sometimes takes brothers being around each other doing these kind of check-ins. Let's keep moving the topic along if you guys don't mind, as we keep talking about different things. So when we talk about avoiding the doctor, you kind of hit it on the nose. You talked about blood pressure. How many brothers actively check their blood pressure on a consistent basis? That's what I'm talking about. You mentioned the systolic, diastolic, that's really important. That's one of the things that they call a silent killer for men is blood pressure. A lot of us will have certain things that go on in our lives. We say, you know what, as men, I can deal with it. It's almost like if Steve was right next to me, not putting a brick on his back. He's like, you know what, I can deal with it, I can handle it. We become more and more used to being in a phase or working stage of being in pain, being overwhelmed and trying harder and harder. Like I mentioned before, we're all angry. We just handle it all differently. All right, good job, man. Let's keep moving along here. All right, so men will spend thousands of dollars on their cars, thousands of dollars taking care of a lot of different things. Let's talk a little bit about why don't you spend it on your body? Jesse, I'm gonna put this question towards you. Why don't men spend as much money as they need to on their body versus everything else? What is the problem with us and being more connected to what's gonna make us healthy?
Probably running from the truth. A lot of times, because, and Julio makes a great point, because we're so much to everybody else, we don't spend enough time on ourselves. A lot of times, I'm talking about for me, I'm so worried about my wife, my children, my players, my profession, then I don't give myself enough time to reflect on who I am and what God will do, and what He did to me last February 2nd. He will, if you don't slow down, He'll slow you down. And what happens is it takes something to happen to us to realize that sometimes. And that happened with me. And because what you trying to do, you know, I always talk about servant leadership when it comes to education and sports and all this stuff. But if you ain't willing to serve yourself, you can't help nobody else. They tell you that on the plane, right? You know, put the mask on yourself before you. And what we as men do, we're taught, and as men, that we're supposed to be providers, and we got to do all these things, but you never providing for yourself a lot of times. You self-confident. I think that's why we go back to the gym and we go hang out with the guys, because it takes us away from sometimes the responsibilities that we have. And then also that responsibility we have for ourselves. That's what I think a lot of that.
It's a good point. We are known to be providers. That's one of the things that define us, is how we can provide. And of course, to provide, you have to be available. We have to be there. You know, we have to make sure you're around to provide. Let's go into the next question here, where it talks about, of course, your body and different warning signs. Just you kind of led into a little bit of that about something that happened to you. But I want to pass this question to Dominique about symptoms and warning signs. Being that you're over at church, you get a chance to hear a lot of people's prayers and mentions about what they're going through, what they're dealing with. But when it comes to men and you hear them, what they're talking about, is it a point where you say, why are so many men avoiding the doctor when they're telling you, oh, pray for this, pray for that? And you may ask, well, have you been to the doctor? How does that affect you when you see things like that in your church?
Well, I think first of all, I had to do it myself, right? I had to be like, I hear me a little bit. Right? You don't hear me? Okay, all right. So, I do it myself, so I have to be like, let me check on me. But I think while a lot of men enjoy it, you echo the same thing. It's fear, but the one word we have to be is intentional. There has to be a certain sense of intentionality to know this. You know, these two poets, right? These two poets, they're poet laureates. And at the beginning of one of the poetic songs, they say, nothing lasts forever, nothing is the same. But still is him and I, of woman I. But the two things I want to get to is nothing lasts forever, nothing is the same. The thing is this though, we take for granted our youth. Right? So I never really had to go. Right? So if I look at it, pretty much everybody up here were athletes. So it was natural. I was always running. I was always moving. Right? We're always doing that. So it's just a natural byproduct that I'm gonna be healthy. But you forget the long roads at night. You forget I done crammed for vet tests and the level of stress that put me on. Because we all used to carry it. So one thing is you just have to realize you're gonna get old and the six pack may turn into a kid, right? You just have to be real about that, right? I looked at Boss K when he came. I know y'all can't see him to TV all this, but I remember when he was real. I remember Jesse being, well, I remember being recruited, but I remember him being, football, Steve, all of that, right? And so the word I would say is intentionality. And so I think when it comes to men, that's what I have to tell them. You have to be intentional about this. And know that one day everything your 40 speed gonna go down, your vertical gonna go down, everything gonna go down one day.
That is
Everything.
That's very true.
Even when you choose your health provider, and I know it's for me, I get fussed at by my doctor. I mean, you gotta have a health provider who really is an advocate for you, right? I mean, I'll be honest. I go to a doctor, have blood drawn Friday. But I'll go. I'll be honest. Sometimes I don't like it because I do get fussed at, but sometimes, and then I leave and I say, man, this person is an advocate for me because you should eat this. This is what you should eat. It's not a come in and go. It is, so make sure whoever your health provider is, that they are an advocate for you. I mean, it may be an uncomfortable conversation. I haven't always had that, I would say, I think I've been going to the same provider maybe about 5 years. And they literally hold my feet to the fire. So make sure if you do that you aren't going through the motions. You have a provider that makes sure, that you're okay.
It's a good point. I will say this, as far as in this panel here, we're all around the same age group that I'm going to talk about. When you say making sure they advocate for you, a lot of us as men, we have to do this thing after you pass 40, I think it's called the prostate exam and all that stuff. Matter of fact, I got one ton of colonoscopy, and I said, wait, how are we gonna do this colonoscopy? And interestingly enough, the doctor I went to was like, it's time. I said, yeah, I'm not ready. She said, no, it's time. And she pushed me to go ahead and make that appointment that same, because I wasn't gonna do it. Let's just be honest, we're men. What's the point of going through that whole situation? We know we gotta do it all our lives. We try to avoid it, but we have to push through. And some of us ignore the warning signs, ignore the normal health checkups. So I don't know why, but I understand why that one is, of course. But I'm gonna push it over to Jesse real quick and ask this question. So why do men push through pain instead of addressing it?
It speaks about what I said earlier. We're taught that way. You're a man. You're not supposed to hurt. Don't show weakness. Stand up. My big mama used to say, stand flat footed. And a lot of this stuff we're taught as young men. My grandfather, our grandparents lived a longer time than we did. And that's because of the fact that their mindset was different from ours, I honestly believe. They had been through so much as younger people. My grandmother told me, she said, what you do at 20 will decide what you do at 40.
That's true right there.
How you live at 40 will determine how you're going to live at 60 and 70. And we don't think about sleep patterns. We don't think about food. We don't think about what we put in our bodies. We don't think about anything. When you're young, my grandmother didn't talk like that. She didn't say, oh, go live free, do what you want to do. She said, keep living. And that's what she would say to me. And a lot of times we don't get that till you get a certain age. Until the doctor did, like he told me back in February. He told me, he said, hey man, you got prostate cancer. And I didn't hear prostate, all I heard was cancer. When you hear the C word, the first thing that went to my mind was my wife and my kids and my family. Who gonna take care of them? Because when you hear the C word, you think death. But then I learned a lot of literature that prostate cancer is the one that can be cured more than anyone, but 73% of brothers and men have prostate cancer. And they don't know they had it. And the doctor told me, he said, hey, if you wouldn't have been coming to the doctor, you'd waited 2 or 3 years. This could have escalated into something that you couldn't control. And so my whole thing was not to get on the phone and tell everybody I know, and then go to doctor. Be a living example, be a testimony to somebody else. But I think a lot of the reason that we don't do it is because we're taught a certain way. You're not supposed to show weakness. And showing weakness was saying, I don't feel good. I don't feel like it today. That's why a lot of us will go to work sick, simply because of that same thought process.
That's a great point, Jesse. That's kind of a wake up call moment. And I know you just shared yours, and obviously, you take care of yours and get past that. But I want you brothers all to share with me a wake up call moment you had after your 40s when you was like, you know what? I need to spend more attention on my health. I'm gonna go around. We'll start over here with Steve first and then work my way that way. We'll skip over Jessica to share his, but I need that wake up call moment for y'all and what y'all did in that moment to change.
For me, it was definitely blood pressure. Waking up every morning, going to the gym, thinking I was fit, and going to the school nurse, blood pressure sky high. They said, no, we probably almost need to call an ambulance for you. No, I'm good. I'm straight. That's probably just something from yesterday. Then going back again the next day, and it was still just as high. And then I said, well, let me go to another person. Now let me go to the doctor, and that's when they wanted to give me the blood pressure medicine and tell me that everything was wrong and tell me what it was doing, that silent killer, what it was doing on the inside of me. So that was a wake-up call for me after the 40s.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. I remember the first time I had to get some medicine. I was like, what? Wow, Sean.
Not me.
Not me. It was Big D.
You're not Big D.
I had to take some. I like you finished. Y'all said you really about to write a prescription for me some medicine. They were like, yeah. I said, man, you gotta be kidding me. And so that deal was a wake up call. Right? That's what I mean by the intentionality, right? Because what I was about to say before you asked that question, which goes into this, is you just never thank you.
Right.
You never thank you. You think like, nah, I'm good. I'm doing whatever. I'm keeping my routine, somewhat of a routine, and you're not really realizing you're not really keeping a routine. And that hidden stress we carry, that I'm good, but I'll leave it at that. I would think I'm with Steve. Like, first time somebody had to write a script either about cholesterol, and particularly when they said blood pressure, I like to do the table out. I don't know what I did after I left out. I just went off into antiquity or something. I'm on medicine. I just,
Wait, at that point, like, wait, on medicine?
yeah, I'm on medicine. Like, what? You know how we do. I know ladies in here, but you know, we just be like,
Right.
long as it working, I'm all right. You know? Then you get that medicine, you be like, wait, what the dosage is? What the dosage is?
What are the effects?
What about okay? I didn't know what no effects is. And that time these people still bad. I don't need to be getting on the voice. I need to know what the effects is.
The side effect.
I thought it was a real podcast. I thought what the effects is.
Same place, sir.
What the effects is. I know what the effects is. We good? Yeah, I'm finished.
Hey, that's funny. Brothers can lose their whole foot. They just want to make sure something else works.
Yeah, y'all talking about cut my arm.
I can hobble too. I can at least hobble to the.
Cut my arm off.
I'm sorry, JP. Hold on. I'm sorry, JP. Going off. All right, JP, on you now.
What the effects is.
Why he wants his.
Right. See why we don't want them sitting next to each other.
Wait, time out. Y'all is Steve. Steve, this ain't no side effect. It's a major effect. It's a major effect, man.
That's real.
Go ahead.
No, that's
Your wake up call moment, JP. What was it for you after your 40s?
it really, man, hit me at 45. And because I'm so used to, even though I've always been a husky dude, I've always been able to do a mile in my 13 minutes, do 10, 15 push-ups, and, you know, was fairly active. But the real check engine light came on when I was 50. And I had caught COVID for the second time. And it just disrupted everything in my body. And so just dealing with that and just having to go to the doctor. And one thing that I've learned from watching my dad went to the doctor. I don't care whether, you know, his nose was bleeding or whatever pain. He said, son, that's what we paid his insurance. I'm going to the doctor, bro. And so that's something that I adopted from him. Anything, something feel off, I'm gonna go to the doctor. So I had my moment in my 45, but really hit me in my peak when I caught caught COVID when I was 50, and it just disrupted everything in my body.
That is something, especially that COVID. Just the second time around?
Yeah.
Whew, had to sit you down for a little bit. What you learned during that time? Because you were sitting down for a little bit. What were you doing? I know that must have been a lot of times you first to be in fear, but weren't you also like help like building your empire at the same time?
The first time I caught it is when in 2023 in May, and by September I was unable to work. So I had to go through the whole gamut of the short-term disability, long-term disability, and people didn't understand what was going on. Now, they've once described it, I deal with long COVID or post-COVID syndrome. And so one of the things that I deal with is the vertigo. Never dealt with vertigo, never dealt with migraines, never dealt with what they call chronic fatigue syndrome. And so it's just a whole bunch of stuff that when I caught it the first time, it kind of messed me up neurologically. But the second time I caught it, it aggravated my gut. And so when I had to take medication to make sure and eat right, because if anything gets inflamed, it disrupts everything in my body. And so I have to be careful. That's why I really started taking my health seriously. Lost right over 105 pounds. And was, because like I said, I could still do a mile in about 15 minutes and still do some push-ups and was still somewhat active. But my doctor was saying, bro, you're not going to be around here much longer if you don't get some of this weight on. And so me catching COVID was kind of that added push, and me losing my cousin. A lot of you all may remember Brian Raines. And so, and I'm looking at him, and he was way healthier than I was. would run 2-3 miles a day, was in great shape, and COVID took him out. So that's when I started to take things serious because, like you said, I didn't think that it would happen to me. I'm Superman. You know, I roll through the punches, but the Lord will sit you down.
That's true. The Lord will sit you down. Y'all noticing that story? How the first time he ran the mile was 13 minutes, second time was 15. Y'all been there? Y'all had the whole time. You give the truth when long you talk to a brother. So listen to you ladies out there. Talk to us longer. Speak. You'll get more of the truth out of it.
It's 13. It's 13 to 15 minutes.
I saw 13. 13. Then he said 13 to 10 push-ups. Then went to 15. He got a few push-ups.
You're right. You're right.
You keep moving, though, brother. You keep it moving. I appreciate that.
Who got this turning point?
Well, I say, yeah. Julio, share with us, please.
Well, mine, shoot, man, of all places, it was in New York. So probably, last few years, I probably was on an airplane 10, 12 times a year. I mean, a month. So I was in New York. Terrence and I got off. Why you laughing at? Why you give me a hard time? And he off the plane.
I did fly 12 times a month.
This was work though.
Yeah.
This was a job. This was a job. So, they picked us up. So I'm going, man, this is in a lot of pain. So I get to the hotel and my publicist is like, what's wrong? I said, I gotta go to the hospital. I did not want to go to the hospital in New York. I just was having pain now. But turns out because of the flight, I was having problems with the leg. So now I have to wear compressions. I'm like, man, I'm in pretty decent shape. I gotta wear old lady compression socks anytime I fly. I like.
Just like compression. I got the old lady.
Well, me, bro. All I know is I'm one of these big, ugly compression socks every time. That was definitely a come to Jesus wreck. Like I'm thinking I'm in decent shape.
Yeah.
But you can't get up in the air, without compression socks, and you got pain and all these other issues. I'm like, what's going on?
Pressure socks took you out.
But no. I had to because the blood clots.
I understand
And it was like, I'm thinking I'm just getting on an airplane. I'm good, right? You get off, you can't walk.
That's interesting. See, one thing you can hear in all the stories is that these things were happening to them, and then they started realizing, I gotta go to the doctor. Now I had a wake up call moment for myself. Funny as it sounds, I actually had so much stress, it had me stuttering. I know me, stutter, I talk a lot. For me to stutter was hard and terrible, and it happened because I moved my family from Chicago to Georgia by myself, had custody of my kids, and I thought, oh, I can get through this. I can get through this. I can do all this stuff the way it needs to be done. I'm a man. I can handle it. Came here, and I remember, funny enough, I had an office out here in Macon. I used to travel from Atlanta all the way to Macon. Kids were being taken care of by my sister, and I thought I had everything together. Next thing you know, about maybe 4 months after I moved here and everything was settled, that's when stress came and hit me. See, one thing about us men, we're like athletes, like Dominique said. We can go through something. What happens is when the game is over, and for us, the game is over when we think that everything's settled. And that's what happened. Everybody thought they had everything settled, and guess what hit them? That stress. Whatever that symptom was, turned into something else. And then whatever it turned into made you have to go to the doctor and figure it out immediately. And that's the thing we try to avoid, trying to figure out things immediately. What's that, Steve?
Yeah. The thing I think that all of us go through is that we're trying to self-diagnose.
Yep.
So once it first happens, we self-diagnose first, and then we write our own prescription. So our blood pressure's high. So we write our own prescription. We say we're gonna do this. We're gonna go Whole Foods, and we're gonna drink cinnamon, and we're good. We're gonna walk 10 minutes a day. We're gonna walk 10 minutes before our meal and get cinnamon in the morning.
Apple cider
vinegar, we good. I ain't gotta go to the doctor. I'm good. Just give me 6 more weeks. And those extra 6 weeks are really killing us silently in a major fashion. I know that was one of my biggest things, that self-diagnosis, and write that prescription, and I just kept holding off. And when I realized that the numbers were getting worse and worse.
It was funny you said about the reality check and somebody being like Will said, somebody being hard on them. And so this is my time for a checkup. And so I went to the checkup, and everything good. And the lady said, yeah, Dr. Gabriel not gonna see you today, but let the practitioner's on. She said, yeah, she gonna check you today, front and back. I said,
What doctor was this? And they've heard the front and back check.
Oh, no, but she was letting me know. I said, wait, hold on.
Her bedside man is wrong to be checked.
I said, hold on, time out. Front and back. You mean today? So I said, you prepare a man for that. Like you don't get here and say today you gonna go. You don't just throw that on me. Hey, that's the day
I
of.
need some time to prepare.
I said, hey, not today. I said, I promise you not today. She said, huh?
Get your affairs in order.
I'm like, hey, you know, you gotta get ready for that. Your mind gotta be ready for that. And so, but I was thinking about how you said how we just like vote, right? She said, so I said, you know, y'all know I can be silly. I said, hey man, first of all, oh forgive me. If we gonna be really, I said, first of all, it's cold in here. So you ain't gonna, no, we gonna pull that down, right? You know what I'm saying? Hey, you won't let, you know, crazy. Then I was like, let me see your hands. I said, she said, Leah not the gamer. I said, you got a point right now. You got a point. I said, I'll tell you what, let's make a deal. I made a deal. I said, check the PSA. She said, the I said, the PSA is good. She said, I'll make that deal. She said, God, that you look pretty good for you, this and that. But then she said, then she wanted to be like Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell on us. Like, ain't nothing like the real thing, though. I said, I know that. I said, I know that. But we're going to check this PSA first. She said, oh, PSA look great. I said, all right, then. I said, next time, I might check back in with you. But you don't put that on me day over.
That's crazy. It get you in the mood, huh?
Yeah, so all of us are gonna have to do this, so you stop running. You ain't done it, right? So just get yourself together with it. But I promise you, you need to get this done. But he said PSA levels. So let me talk a little bit about that. Because I think I'm an expert on it right now.
Yeah.
So the doctor says, hey man, your PSA levels are high. And they're not supposed to be, now we're at 7. That's pretty bad, right? And so they're not supposed to be nowhere elevated, really past a 3. And so mine was at a 7, so I said, okay. So I had to go get do the biopsy, right? He said, it could be 2 things though. He said, we don't understand certain things, we don't think about them. The doctor asked me, he said, are you getting up going to the bathroom 3 and 4 times a night? I said, yeah, I am. And you just thinking, okay, I just gotta go to the bathroom, but that's not a normal thing, brother. That's not a normal thing. So he asked me, I said, yeah, he said, well, it could be, your prostate could be inflamed. So inflammation of the prostate and cancer can give you the same symptoms. So that's why you have to go get the biopsy. And then when I got the biopsy and they told me what was going on, of course, it hits you. But then when he told me that it's the most curable cancer, that it was good and that they got all these different things that they can do. So they actually went in and put radiation pellets inside of my prostate. Now they wanted me to come to Macon, and I live in Dublin. They wanted me to come to Macon 5 days a week for a month and a half to get the radiation. And I was like, hey, that's gonna be way too, and just like us as men, it's like how silly we can be. Man, I gotta go to work. Hey, wait a minute, I gotta go to football practice. What are you talking about? And the doctor looked at me and said, do you want to die? I said, slow down, buddy. No, I don't want to die. I said, he said, but we got alternative things we can do for your prostate right now that can get you cured. He used the word cured, and everything I thought was bad left when he said cured. Because a lot of times you're faced with something that is traumatic like that. There's no cure. You just have to deal. You know what I mean? But when he said cured, and then I went to go check my PSA levels, man. And he said to me, he said, I can't wait till my PSA levels went all the way down to like a 1. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
But then I said to him, he's like, and I had my wife with me at this time, so I talk a little rougher when I hear my wife with me, right? She here with me today too. So I'm there at the doctor, and she don't go with me this time. He's like, hey, so when we check him again, we want you to ring the bell. I said, man, I ain't ringing no bell. And he was like, And he was real tough on me, like, well, he said, oh, you're gonna ring that bell. I said, man, I'm not ringing no bell. He said, I'll tell you what, you know how many people wish they could ring that bell? So you have to understand that when God brings you to a certain level and he afflicts you with something, he's that same God can cure you of that too.
Yeah.
And so when he does that, you gotta be thankful. And that's why situations like this is so good, because we all talking about things we dealt with, but when you hear the word cure or better, that's always a testimony for somebody else to know, I need to go get checked.
That's so important. I would say that again, as men, we don't value the health that we have in our bodies until we're sick. And that's one of the things that we definitely have to pay attention to at all times. I want to thank my speakers up here today. We're going to move to another segment, but I definitely want to thank Julio, John, Jesse, Dominique, and also Steve. We've been talking about men's health as it relates to going to the doctor, and of course being vulnerable and putting yourself out there to make sure that you're going to be healthy. Before we go to the next segment, I'm gonna go ahead and let Dominique introduce our special guest today as we move on to the next segment. Dominique?
And the guy who I'm about to introduce now is real special guy to me. All these guys are good with me. This dude right here, they say I kill a brick for. He led my process into Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, but you know, real good man. Let me say that, a real good dude. And when you're talking about a picture of health, right? You talking about now at 55, 56, he'll tell his story, but I get upset. I look at it, I think, walk around, shirt all off, showing it 13 pack and everything. But I'm gonna get out the way, man. Y'all give it up for my nigga, my brother, big brother, mentor, everything, Mr. Larry Floyd.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
Why not just be together? That one shot.
Thank you, my brother.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get straight to the point. How long do I have?
You essentially have about 10 minutes before our intermission.
Yeah, 2 minutes for intermission.
10 minutes?
Yeah.
Give him 20.
You got 20 minutes then for intermission. How much do you
Take,
need?
yeah, take what you need. Cause they need to.
Yeah, take what you good.
All right.
Cause we started.
All right. Welcome to Flight Turning Lemons to Lemonade. My name is Larry Darnell Floyd II. Today, weather forecast will be sunny, will be stormy, and we'll be back sunny. On this flight, we'll have to go back 3 decades. We'll have to go back 3 decades. But before, while we taxi on the runway, before we take flight, some people will wonder, why now, Larry? Why do you want to speak publicly about your health? Well, November of last year, on a routine annual scanning of my native kidneys, original kidneys, the doctors found 2 masses on both kidneys. They referred me to the urologist in the oncology department. From there, they scheduled me a surgery. So January 7th of this year, I had an open bilateral nephrectomy. So he removed both kidneys. Okay. So before I finish that, I'm gonna go ahead and take it all the way back 34 years ago. March 1992. I was a student at the Payne College in Augusta, Georgia. 21 years old. Life was grand. I'm talking about grand. I felt like I was a man. Everything was going good. I'm participating in this program called co-op program, which allowed me to work and get paid one semester and go to school the next semester. So, everything's good. I'm wearing a shirt and tie. Life is grand. Life is grand. Life is grand. We went on spring break. Payne College went on spring break. And there was this event in Savannah, Georgia called Orange Crush. Not sure about Orange Crush.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
And I had just did this
Long
thing.
time ago.
And I had just did this thing fall of 1991. So I know who was going. I know who was going. Who was going. So we went. I'm just gonna leave it at this. A time was had. A time was had. What a time to be alive.
Hands up,
Listen, listen. I think the younger crowd say something like this to me. We left no crumbs.
yeah.
We left no crumbs. So I returned to Augusta Sunday. Sunday was a wash. I laid down all day. Sunday night, woke up, urinated, thirsty. Monday, same thing. Tuesday, the same thing. I'm just laying around the house. I'm drinking up everything. Everything in the house, in the apartment, I'm drinking up. I'm drinking up. So Wednesday, I finally kind of got myself together. So now I'm into 21-year-old mindset. You know, I'm young, 21, you know, ready to get into some things, have some fun. So as the day went by, probably about 10:30 at night, my uncle had just moved to Augusta from Americus, my hometown. He walked me, he said, you okay, Larry? I said, yeah, I'm good, good. Yeah, I'm straight. He stopped, he looked at me, he said, you don't look like yourself. I said, I hit him with the famous 3 words. I'm good. You know, we all said, I'm good. He said, nah, Larry, we'll take you to the ER. Again, I tried to shake him off. I said, I'm good, man, I'm good. He got stern. He said, we going to the ER. So we get to the ER probably about 11 o'clock. Of course, it's the ER, so a couple of hours went by. Finally, the ER doctor came out. He said, he can go home, everything's cool. My uncle, this is when standing 10 toes down was invented. He said, we are not going anywhere till we get a second opinion. Those were the last words I remember. The next speaking voice that I heard, I wake up in the hospital. I got stuff in my nose, I got IVs in my arms, stuff on my chest. I wake up. Hello, Mr. Floyd. I'm Dr. Such. And they start asking me all these personal questions. Mind you, I'm just now waking up. I'm trying to gather myself. I'm trying to figure out, where am I? How did I get here? So I'm scanning the room, they asking all these questions. They coming hard. I finally locked eyes with my uncle, kind of calmed me down. So now I'm in the hospital. How did I get here? Man, I'm confused. I felt like prior to this day, I was the man. King Kong didn't have nothing on me. That's how I felt. That's how I was feeling. But now I'm in the hospital. So it took about 3 days before they really found out what was going on. So they came in on the 3rd day and they said, Mr. Floyd, you've been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. They said when you came in, your blood sugar was 727. 727. Now, this is kind of embarrassing. I didn't even know what blood sugar was at that age. I did not know what blood sugar meant. And as I learned more about the hospital, the normal range in 1992 was between 80 and 120. I'm at 727. My God. So now I'm in the hospital. So now, as soon as they give me this diagnosis, it's like the floodgates of fluid. They sent me in someone to show me how to check my blood sugar. Sent somebody in to show me how to draw insulin. Then they sent in a nutritionist. So now I'm emotionally I'm emotionally scarred basically. I'm trying to figure out what is this diabetes? How did it hit me? I was a slender guy, decent shape. Why me? Why me? So I spent all of my 21, my 20s and my 30s dealing with diabetes. And what people did not know was this was very new to me. They hit me out of the blue. I had I had to check my blood sugar 4 times a day, had to take shots 4 times a day. 4 times a day. All while trying to appear to be positive, interacting with people. And I kind of just started going into seclusion. Didn't want to be bothered. My hangouts were very stiff, brief. If you weren't in my immediate circle at the time, I kind of stopped dealing with you. And that just kind of played on my mind because everybody that was in my circle, they're healthy. They don't really have time to cater to my situation. I got to stop checking blood sugar. I got to stop giving myself a shot. So it became almost socially awkward. Because a lot of times we get together, let's go get something to eat. Well, for the average Joe Blow, you can just go get something to eat. If it's not my scheduled time to eat, I'm the outcast. I'm the outcast. And then even if it's on the time that I eat, it's a whole ritual that I have to do it. I have to check my blood sugar. At that time, I had to, it was like a, what you call the thing? Sliding scale, thank you. Sliding scale, depending on what the blood sugar was. All of this, I'm 21, I'm in my 20s, I struggled. I struggled silently. Silently, I just went all the way there. You guys may have seen me during those times, but I wasn't all the way there. It played on my mental, a lot of mental gymnastics. But I hit it well because men said, yeah, we the man, we men. We're not gonna admit that we are struggling physically or emotionally. So the way I got through it basically was I had to just lean on what I have always done. I went extra hard on working out. I ate at the same time all the time. I ate healthy, and that kind of just got me through. And so that's the beginning of my health journey. So we're going from 92, went through the 90s, started early 2000s. I'm just gonna mention this, but I'm not gonna harp on it. 2006, I wake up one morning, my blood vessels had burst in my left eye. I had to, long story short, I had to detach retina. And I had to, I had to go through surgery. So I had to deal with that. So now, 2006, 2007, 2008, I recovered from that, but now I'm having issues with night vision. The vision has been, I feel like I'm blind. No night driving anything. So I was like, oh man, not again, God. Not again, not again. Tough to do that, so I keep it moving. Now, 2010, on a routine doctor's visit for my diabetes, they always drew blood prior to me coming to the appointment. When I arrived to the appointment, he referred me immediately to a nephrologist. Okay, I gotta go to the nephrologist. Didn't tell me what was going on or anything. So I go to the nephrologist. He sets me down. looks me dead in my eye. He said, Mr. Floyd, your kidneys are working at 17%. My knee-jerk reaction was, you mean one of them? I'm good with the other one, right? Now both. Wow, man. I'm devastated. I'm devastated at this point. I'm frustrated because now here's another situation. You have renal failure. The only saving grace at that moment, he said, since you are diabetic and you have renal failure, you're eligible to be on the kidney and pancreas transplant list. So what that did for me was it moved my wait time from 3+ years to 6 months or less to be able to get a transplant. So I kind of stored it in the cloud. But when I got home, there was some furniture moving. There was some yelling. There was some crying. There was some direct arguing with God. Why me? Why me? I'm doing everything that I think I'm supposed to be doing. But why me? Why me? Lord, show me a sign, please. I need help with this one. So that was April 2010. I did not go on dialysis until December 2010. And let me tell you something. Please take care of your health. Dialysis is something that you do not want to do. You do not want to be on dialysis. It's a different animal. But at the same time, it can make you feel better. And that's what it did for me. So now I'm on dialysis. I'm still in this emotional and mental strain. I mean, I'm frustrated. I'm a walking time bomb. I am a walking time bomb. So I didn't tell anybody about this. I withheld it, and I just simply got focused. I said, Lord, and this is the first time I ever in my life thought about death. I said, man, this might be my time. If it is, I'm going out in the best shape ever. Yeah. Man, that like I said, dialysis can be bad, but it was good because it gave me enough energy to do something. So now, this is when the blessing came. Sunday, April 24th, which happened to be Easter weekend. My wife and I, my daughter, we were going to the in-laws for dinner. As we, on the way at 2:12 p.m., my phone rang. And for those of you, for anybody who's from Augusta, when you see a 721 number, you know that's a hospital. Man, I said, look here, I need to answer that. I need to answer this. I grabbed my phone and I shook the whole time. I was shaking the whole time. Hello, this is such from the transplant center. We have a match for you. Can you be here at 3:30? It's 2:12. We got there at 3:20 because we had to turn around, take my go home, get my daughter clothes, drop off at the grandmother's house. We got there at 3:20. Oh, I'm here. I'm here. But even though I got the call as a match, it's still when they still had to run tests. But I claimed that. I claimed it. I said, this is me. I said, this is me. This is me. Got there, finally went in at 3:30. They finally, after I took all the stuff, by 8 o'clock, I'm waiting. So I'm just changing the TV from 3:30 to 4:30 a.m. Oh, man. Finally, at 5 a.m., they came in, they said, Mr. Floyd, everything checks out. We're going to surgery at 6 o'clock. That was the best news I ever had in 19 years. All the praying, all the stress, all the pain was lifted off me. There was no, I felt so good to get the news. So I go in, 8 hours later, I had a successful kidney and pancreas transplant. So
All right, good.
the lesson was, as soon as they put the organs in me, I started urinating right then. My color came back. I was on cloud nine. I was on cloud nine. I'm back. I'm back. I felt like the man. I'm back. I'm really back. So as I got the news, and I had to stay in the hospital for about 2 days. They come in, they tell me now, I have to take medicine for the rest of life. Okay, I'm fine with that. No more shots. Because I got a kidney and pancreas transplant. So the diabetes that I had, gone. Bye-bye. So I trade the shots for a couple of pills any day. Any day. So while I'm in the hospital, they gave me some good and bad news. They said, I don't want to call it bad news, but some concerning news. They said it's one medicine that you take. It's good for you, but there's a slight chance that can give you cancer. I stored it in the cloud because I was too excited about my new found blessing. So now to bring it home, going back to November of last year, I told you that they had found tumors on my both kidneys. Well, that when I stored it in the cloud, that's why I had to have surgery January 7th of this year. They successfully removed both kidneys, and they were able to remove the low-grade cancer that was found. So I stand before you blessed, thankful of my journey and my blessings. And to all the men on Beyond the Cave podcast, I heard your stories. I heard your wake-up calls. We have to take better care of our health. Health is wealth. Health is wealth. I encourage you not to stop being reactive and start being proactive. That's my challenge. That's my challenge. I tell you, it's nothing greater than good health. Nothing greater than good health. I spent all these years unhealthy, suffering mentally and emotionally in private, in silence. So I also challenge you, man, you gotta have somebody, that support system that's gonna get you through. Find somebody that you can talk about your health challenges. It's okay. It is perfectly okay to post. You don't have to tell the whole world, but bounce it off somebody. Of course, we're gonna pray. We know that, but you still need that human touch. Still need that human touch. So I'm thankful for this opportunity to share my story publicly. And again, Beyond the Cave podcast, thank you for this opportunity.
Yes.
That was a very powerful story. Very powerful story. We definitely thank you for sharing with us. We definitely appreciate it. And again, that's kind of what we've been talking about here in Beyond the Cave podcast. It's all about making sure we're aware of what goes on in men's health. We're doing our checks and doing what we need to make sure we stay healthy. We can't provide, protect unless we are here. So I want to thank you all for tuning in for this segment here of Beyond the Cave. Our host today, of course, myself, Toy McCoy. We had Julio, we had John, we also had Jesse, Dominique, and Steve. So thank you all for tuning in. And we're going to end this segment right now. We're going to take a brief intermission, be about 15 minutes, and we'll come right back and go to our second segment. Thank you all. Bye. Welcome back, guys. This is Beyond the Cave podcast. I'm your host, Toy McCoy, and joining me today is Julio. We have John. We also have Jesse. We have Dominique, and we have Steve. Today we're talking about the things that affect men the most, which is mental health. I'm going to start this segment off by talking about a particular story. We're going to call it the batter's box. It's something about men. We talk about things that affect us. We always make analogies with sports. It's just who we are. You know, we think logically. So the batter's box is a story about a man going up to bat to deal with the three things that pretty much define us as a man. Of course, money, how we provide for our family, relationships, how we are loved on. I said how we are loved on. Then, of course, finances, of course, is the next. I'm sorry, finance. Our job is the next thing, the things that define us. So what happens in the story is a man goes to bat with the devil. The devil throws the first pitch. It's about money, swing and a miss. The devil throws the second pitch. It's about the man's relationship, how he's loved, swing and a miss. Third pitch goes up. It's about his job, how he's defined, swing and a miss. He struck out. All the while, he has his bat in his hand trying to figure out, what is it? Why is God not here right now? And he keeps thinking about, why is God not here? I'm going through all this. I'm dealing with all this. I went up there to hit for money. I didn't hit that pass. Went up there for finances, missed that. My relationship is messed up. Where is God? And most people say, well, God is probably the umpire. He's probably going to change the calls and those strikes. That's what most people would think. Then someone will say, no. God is the coach. He's the one going to coach you into being successful. All those answers are actually wrong. God is neither the coach nor the umpire. And the fact the man has a bat is really the problem. God is actually next up to bat. And God looks at the man and goes, the problem has nothing to do with you trying to swing against the passes the devil throws at you. The problem is you're trying to swing. That's my job. He told the man, go sit down in the stands, you cheer me on. I'm going to fight these battles for you. And what I'm talking about is men, we get exhausted. We get overwhelmed. We get burnt out. And we just don't want to let that bat go. We want to keep swinging and keep going at it until it builds up and builds up pressure. And we think we have nowhere to turn. And sometimes we got to just let go at certain times. So I'm going to pose this question to you all. I'm going to start with Julio. When you talk about pressure and burnout, how many times in your life, or name a time in your life when you had to let that bat go and let God go up to bat?
Every day. Before we get in there, I gotta say something. You know, all of us have a different relationship. All of us are different, right? All of us greet each other. All of us have different things. But you know, Larry, are you older than me or younger?
We're the same age.
Only reason I say that, right? He always act older than me. No, but explain it. As he was telling the story, right? I mean, we talking about Father Julio that most people that here don't know. You know, you guys know me. But you know how when I was seeing him, you know, I mean, probably 2-3 times a year. You know, we'd see each other at various times. One thing that always stood out, he would always stop me, and he was kind of square me up. He looked me dead in the eyes, and he'd say, "How you doing?" Okay, I'm gonna go hang out and chase this and do all that. But he said, "No, how you doing?" And it was always not a, it was just a serious look at me in the eyes and ask how I was doing. And I would stay there and he would hold me down until he said, well, you know. And it was almost like he was 20 years older. I mean, he had fun. I mean, you know what I'm saying? He never judged me. He never like, all right, you going through this and you probably ain't got no business doing that. But before you go do that, I mean, we're talking 20. So if I was, I guess 20, he was 20. I was 21. Or if I was 30, he was 30. And I know we were really close in age. There just was a very, that would always stand out. You always, I mean, you know, and you never know what, particularly why a person stops you, look in your eyes, say, hey, before you go have fun, go do this. How are you? As a man, as a person, as a student, as as a profession, how are you? So I just want to say that there's never not. I've always thought every time I think about that, and I appreciate that, right? Because you know we all thought we were Superman. Well, we all thought all kinds of things, but you would always make me slow down before I probably want to get something not so very smart. So just want to say thanks. Stress, yeah. I mean having 200 employees that you got to deal with, it's always a problem. Every day, your phone ring is a problem. Having to depend on that, uh, I call on the Lord every day. Some days I was like, okay, I mean, it's not an easy thing. People seeing you on television, I've always tried to be who I am. Sometimes people will see me and think, we talking about how the perceptions. I've run into people who say, I saw you on TV. One lady was from Israel. I guess you saw it or Dubai or something. And they'll talk to you and look at you. And, of course, my voice don't change. I only know how to talk country, right? They're like, you really talk country, right? They're like, that's really how you talk. But the perceptions, as you say, what you think, Sneak?
So they thought it was a TV voice?
I don't know. And I'm just telling you how people, the perception, right? Because if people see you, they automatically have a perception of who you are, right? Or is this person really like this? And again, fortunately, I can only be who I am, and I try to be consistently who I am. Maybe if I had found some level of success early, maybe I would have changed, But at this point, God has put me in a position where, He's either take me how I am, or if not, I'll be okay. But yeah, I mean, I deal with it. I deal with the stress. I deal with the, when, I guess the biggest thing for me, and it probably happened in 25 as, most people when they see me now, they're like, man, I'm trying to slow my life down. And I know people say, and I've told all of you that. Because at some point, you chase and chase and chase and chase, and then you really get to the point where, and again, it was that moment. It's like, why am I chasing at this point? I don't, well, when is enough enough? How do you get off that roller coaster? Which, it might seem easier to get off the roller coaster, but it's not, because you got to feed 200 people. You got a kid who you're trying to raise up to be you. You got public perceptions. You got these big companies that pay you, and they pay you to go do different things, and it seems like it's fun until it's not. Till you been around playing for, your point. I flew in this every week. I can remember I flew from Orlando to the next week Phoenix. The next week it was LA. The next week, and it went on for 14 weeks. So I got to the hotel and I called Terrence. It's like, bro, this ain't it. It might seem funny, man. I almost wanted to cry. It was 5-star hotel. I mean, I just wanted to be in my bed. I just, at some point, money don't matter. Things don't matter. It just becomes but you have so many people depending on you, right? So Disney is, the biggest multi-anything. The more money they throw, the more money, the more you take it, and it just gets to the point where it's a mental toll. And a lot of y'all have talked to me, y'all like, so you better know me and you talk about it. Say people who've talked like, man, I'm like, bro, this ain't fun. This is before it becomes not. And the perception looks fun, but it's not. And you were in I won't say it's a mental hit. You're in a mental fighting against what everybody wants you to be, and taking care of people that, being employees, that, sometimes they don't think you're looking out for their best interests because you're making them do the right things and you have a business to run. No different than you probably telling your football players, right? This is like, right, look, we can't win if you don't. And it's like, sometimes people don't know what's good for them. And you the boogeyman when you tell them, look, maybe I might know what's better for you. I'm sure as a preacher, I'm sure as a principal, people sometimes think that if you're here at the top, that you don't understand what it's like being at the bottom. And I've had both, and so sometimes again, I'm not trying to say I'm not thankful, but it has been probably it took me probably 6-8 months to clear my calendar that, and I had to hire somebody to say no, meaning can you do this? Hey, see this later. No, can you? What's wrong, Steve?
Say that again. You had to hire somebody to say no.
Sneak, right? See, you got my number. So, but I had to put an intermediary to talk because
Yeah.
the ask, the ask, and you know what I'm saying?
Is it that hard for you to say no?
But you got to think, just at a certain level, the no's might be a company saying we'll pay you $50,000 to come speak for an hour. But the no's might also be the middle school teacher who you've known wants to come speak to a kindergarten class. Right? So I mean, it's two different things, right? But there's only so many. There's 52 Saturdays. Is I gotta work. It's 50. You know what I'm saying? There's only so many weeks. It's only so many days. It's only so many things you can buy. So at what point it is hard, right? I literally have now 3 people who their job is still say no.
That man says 52 Saturday.
52.
That's good.
Only 52.
Go ahead. I just thought about it. We just throwing out there. This how we doing our part.
Yeah.
Well,
Right? I mean, I gave you a Saturday, right? I you called me. I counseled her. I said,
you
you
did
say
that.
it's the last one.
You did that.
I said I got paid him it, but I'm gonna cancel it.
You did that. That was friendship.
So what I'm hearing you say is realistically what exhausts you sometimes is having to be you to so many different people.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And then that exhausts. So the best way for you to handle that is how so beyond putting the person in front of you to say no, what's the next thing you do as far as building that within yourself? Because again, that's something within you that is going to be built up. Are you struggling with that?
I don't struggle with it as much anymore. Because again, like I said, I had to get to the point where with myself where it was enough. Right? What is enough? I mean, I don't want no cars. I don't want another house. I don't want no other thing. What is enough?
Have to put that back down, huh?
Right. You
That
put it
guy
back now.
goes-
What's
yeah,
enough?
he
Like,
does. Go sit in the stands.
what is enough, right? Because we're all striving to get more. But what cost is more? You know what I'm saying? It might seem like, okay, that's fun. But is it fun at some point?
That is a very great story. I hope y'all actually listen to everything. I'm about to play Dominique right now. See, when I go to hotels, 5-star. Yeah, it may not be relaxed. Y'all heard that, right? 5-star. That's where I relax. I'm just messing with you, Julie.
But somebody was paying for it, so it's not.
All I gotta tell you, next time you gotta tell somebody no to speak $50,000, just call me. I'll go ahead and I can find a piece. I can find a piece on top of my head.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you my way. I'm doing fine.
But how much work goes into that?
A lot.
Okay.
Right? So I would be free.
Reparation.
So in one day,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know, I mean, it's
You don't turn on till long.
you had to prep for, right?
And I love the contrast too that you gave between a $50,000 gig or the high school teacher. It's like it can be the same no, but one really affects you more than the other. Funny enough, it ain't the $50,000 gig. It's telling your high school teacher no. It's the perception she has of you. And as men, we look at how people view us. We look at how everyone
That's
views us,
good, Todd.
and we want to provide. I'll pass the hat around later. And we want to provide.
I mean, Steve Jones came on and he's like, man, all these kids want to be veterinarians, right? They ain't seen a black veterinarian. Right? I mean, how many people seen a black veterinarian besides me?
That's a unique level of stress. That is. That's a unique level of character stress for yourself.
So
Yeah.
if everybody grandma and everybody mama and everybody auntie want their kid to be you, and they come up to you and they say, "Hey, I want my baby to be you.
Hard to say no.
Can you talk?" I walked into Mardi Gras, true story. Well, Mardi Gras 2 weeks ago. Soup, I'm at the bar, get tapped on the shoulder. I had been there for 10 minutes. Tapped me on the shoulder. He said, "Can you talk my kid?" I said, I'm thinking I'm making a picture or something. He makes me walk over to his wife. Walk to his wife. Hey, I go outside and have a FaceTime with a 10-year-old kid. True story.
You got the chest. Go ahead.
Right, but what do you do?
No.
I mean, yeah, you can. I mean, but I mean, it's a gray area, right? It's a true story, Jeff. I'm a true story. I walked out and talked to the kid, and I'm thinking, okay,
On FaceTime, doing my.
on FaceTime with a suit on,
No more to go.
doing a movie film. True story.
At the bar.
At the bar, I didn't get my drink. I turned around, I said, okay. I went outside, talked to this 10-year-old kid.
See, I
And,
think,
I don't really have an answer. I mean, what's right or wrong? The person that I'm gonna do it every time.
I
The
think
person, do I
though,
want to do it? Probably no.
Yeah.
But
but I think what happens though, and this still in line with the question that money says, stress, all that, right? I think what happens is like, that's what we talking about with that stress, like, no one wants to be regardless, like, I get it, my chest, and you always have them. I don't care, it's like, that's just been you, and I respect you for that. No, and I respect you for that, cause I need to get some of it too. I think the thing that it is when you never want, particularly me having allegiance to the hood or the urban community, you never want nobody to think you get into a place
Better than them.
where you think, and so you tiptoe that. And so what happens is you do get the three people to say no for you. You do, like John Maxwell said, not trying to switch too much. He said because of who he is as a pastor, when people come ask him, he send them to a lady and say, hey, cause he said, cause you know, regardless of what we thought about Eddie Long and all that, right? It was the same with him. People like, because he was so generous, he had to surround himself with people to say no. So for me, I had to have dogs like that too. They be like, you two are sisters. Like, do not give out your real number. See, this why we got a system, right? So to try to tie it in, right? So that was the stress is. Like the stress come by like, I got this gift I want to share, but I have to realize I'm a limited commodity.
Yeah.
He's the only one that's unlimited. I carry him, but in my humanity, I really need to sit down somewhere. Right? And so that's part of being a stress. That coming, yeah, I got to throw a joke in. You know, I'm not in somebody's tax bracket.
Over there in 5-star hotel.
Yeah, 5-star hotel, you know, 12 times a month, you know what I'm saying? But each one of us has a level of influence, and everybody trying to pull on that extra teeth. Everybody, so that's why you gotta be careful with your vices, right? So it's like David, like, you know, that joke was, he was hard for God, but when David sinned, he sinned. Like, he wasn't going to hell in no pinto. When David sinned, he was like, I'm going all the way out. I'm going all in. I'm all in for the Lord. I'm all in for my sin, whatever you want to do. And so we have to be careful with that, with dealing with that stress, that we don't, you know, you go all in on a glass of wine, turn into some rocks into that. That thing, you know, you back burning. I'm talking about you everywhere. And so with that influence, people don't realize, right? Like the urban CEO thing, this and that. Man, the number of inboxes I get just to like, hey, can you do it? I'm like, man, like I still got $1 I'm trying to get out the house. No, I ain't got it. My son is think he Mario untreated. I'm paying. I gotta pay that ticket. So
Preach.
you know, so it's all of that when you're talking about dealing with stress and dealing with it. Now, luckily, I laugh a lot at myself and whatever. I don't take myself too serious either.
sure.
Right? And so we all do that, you know. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, good point. I mean, that's the one thing about that is that we are talking about the stress. We are talking about the moment that you have to put the bat down and allow something else to take over. As Julio mentioned, he's dealing with the identity of how people see him versus the energy and the capacity he has. And some of those things you can't protect yourself from. People are going to see you the way they choose to see you. Sometimes you have to let that bat go down and just trust God on those different things. JP, I'm gonna pass the question over to you. At what point in time do you have to put the bat down? What was your stress level? You were exhausted, too much was going on. You're like, I gotta put this bat down. I gotta let God do what he has to do and bat for me. And that's a very tough thing, just so you guys know. This question's not an easy question. Because as men, when you say you're exhausted, you're stressed out, you've had enough, what you're really saying, unfortunately, is how it happens to us. I failed. I am not enough. I can't continue on. So when I say put the bat down, that is a level of defeat to some men. And it's a very vulnerable place. And Julio shared his vulnerable place. So I do want to hear from you, JP. What's your vulnerable place? We have to put the bat down and allow God to take control. Because at that particular point, being a man wasn't enough. There's something else had to happen.
I think for me, and I always would tell Julio, because him and Dominic both have been mentors and big brothers for me over the last 25 plus years. And I always would tell Julio, I said, bro, I don't see how you do it. And I always would say, bro, I never want that lifestyle because I know the battles behind the scene. But as far as for me, I think it was that 2-year period when God sat me down when I was unable to work and went through that time when I had the short-term disability, the long-term disability. And at the time, my daughter was graduating from college and thought she had to have red bottoms for her photo shoot. And I'm looking at my money and I'm like, hey, I can paint them.
Blow the loads.
Right. So
These are building the shoes.
I'm trying to create, right?
Why does he know that song?
I work with teenagers.
So it was that time when I'm trying to navigate through this season where I had more than enough to not enough. And you try, okay, well, maybe if I do a workshop, maybe if I write another book, maybe if I do this, maybe if I do this, maybe, and God was like, maybe you just need to sit down and listen to me. And it was in that season where I had to learn to get out of my own way so that he could have his way and work through me. And as far as stress, a lot of times people don't even understand because they say that I'm so jovial and happy-go-lucky. I can have the weight of the world on my shoulders. And it's only because of the grace of God that I hadn't folded. And because it was a time where I was like, Lord, why is all this happening to me? Because I treat people right, I live right, I always do right by people. I might cuss a little bit, but at the end of the day, just little. But why is this happening to me? But he hurried up and got me told, and he was like, why not you? He said, I'm letting you go through these things because I trust you with trouble. Amen. And so in that instance, I don't let stress bother me. I kind of let stuff roll off my back. If I'm, now I will get stressed, but I try to tend to separate it and you know what, God, I'm putting this in your hands. Whatever this is, I'm putting this in your hands. Whatever this situation, my health, I'm putting it in your hands. My finances, I'm putting it in your hands. But it took that time of me sitting down and having to go through those hard seasons to learn that, hey man, you can't control everything. You have to give it to the one that does control everything. So I had to learn how to turn that stress switch off and let God do what he's gonna do. Because at the end of the day, his will gonna be done, whether we like it or not.
That's correct. That's correct. Gotta go sit down sometimes and join the stands with everybody else that's cheer God on for you. Because he is playing for you, for sure. He's up to bat. All right, Jesse, I want to hear from you now, please.
So we need to understand one thing: we don't own nothing. Gotta stop stressing yourself about stuff that you don't even own. Everything that we have, God gave it to us. And if we give it back to him, he'll provide for us to have more. So I learned about, I'm a person that likes hard conversation. I like to argue. So sometimes I'm stressed and don't know I'm stressed. So that's not a good thing.
That's true.
Man said, I like to argue. You know somebody pronounce argue, you know, like argue. You already know they about to argue.
So
You know, it's real.
So I'm just built like that. I like hard conversations. I like being in tough situations. I don't know if football had anything to do with that, but I'm a person who loves that situation. And I learned through my mother on her deathbed that that's what was wrong with me. So Thanksgiving, November 2018, 22nd, my mother had a series of strokes. She was in a personal care place. And it was Thanksgiving, so I got people coming in my house. I got my line brothers coming to my house, their wives. They all coming to Millersville. And I'm going to see my mom, so I said, I'm gonna make this better for her. I'm gonna go to Corral and buy her all the food she ain't supposed to eat, right? And so she ended up giving the food to all the people that were on her road. And so she got to the point, she looked at me and she said, you need to go home. So I'm gonna make this point real quick. She had to tell me to go home because she knew she was passing. She didn't want me to be there, right? So this was a stressful thing for me. And any of us that has lost a parent, especially your mama, my God, that's a wound that don't never close. Yes. Right? But she taught me something in that stressful time that saved me. She said to me, she said, Jesse, you know what, you're a good man. You love your family, you love people, you help people, you do all these things. She said, but you know, you can't save nobody. That's your problem. You think you can fix everything for everybody. See, I didn't know that about me. I thought that's just what I'm built. Yeah, that's what I do. And my mama said, boy, you're going to kill yourself. God, the only somebody can save somebody. None of them people, your children, your wife, your kids, their job, none of that belong to you. I learned that from talking to my mother on her deathbed. Stressful situation for me. I'm getting in the car knowing my mama finna pass. And she don't want me there. But she told me something in that time that changed my life forever. You ain't everybody's assignment. Sometimes you get in God's way. He wants you to move so he can do his work. But you think you're supposed to do everything for everybody and you trying to fix everybody. I'm saying, oh man, and since I know that now, since my mother passed, man, I learned how to back up and let God deal with certain stuff. I didn't even know it was stressing me because I thought that's the way I'm built. That's the ignorance of us sometimes as men. I'm a tough guy. I can do this, I can do that. And then my mother on deathbed had to sit down to speak something into me. Stressful time in my life now. But that stressful time come to be the time when I actually saw myself. Because see, you don't know who you are because you can't see yourself. That's why God give us mirrors, right? So what does a mirror do? It reflects. But what it's supposed to do is correct. Because you're going to go look in that mirror and you're going to see you got some matter in your eye when you wake up and you're going to clean it out your face. See, I didn't realize my mama was my mirror like that. She saw something in me I didn't see in myself, which was stressing me. And she said, hey, boy, you can't save nobody. You give him to God and you let him handle it. So even in a stressful situation like that, I didn't know I was. And there's a lot of men that think because they Superman, that old saying, I'm big bad and I'm just and I can say this and I'm pretty good with my words. I like to read. I like to give you some things that I don't think you know. I'm just playing on your head or whatever that is. Plasmos. That's just. But the real issue here is on my mother's deathbed, she told me who I was. And it took a lot of stuff that I was doing away from me. And now I do realize that sometimes everybody ain't your assignment. You gotta back away and say, and my big mama said, I do something for you, the devil won't do for you. I'll leave you alone. And sometimes you have to do that because you don't know you're in a stressful situation.
That's some good stuff right there. It's amazing how we're hearing these stories, and we're gonna keep going here through Dominic and Steve. We're talking about men trying to do everything all the time to be man and be manly to everyone. We're talking about what we carry as far as weight. While we have these other problems, we talk about with the stress. While we have these issues with our finance. While we have these issues with our relationships. While we have these issues spiritually. So there's always a theme in this. So I'm gonna keep going here. Let me go to Dominique and then go to Steve before we move to the next segment.
I think for me, of course, when I had to get the script wrote, but not on a real level, man, I'm gonna be emotional. I already know it. So my wife went in the hospital December 12th and didn't come out. She left January 14th. So from December 12th up until maybe sometime that early January, I was in the room every night. This is when I came back home. And so when they took it on to the ICU, I stayed down in the ICU that night. And I was in the chair. And so when the lady came in, she said, you stayed here all night? I said, yeah, all right. Because I'm just in the mood, I'm in the mode of staying. Now I realize that it's ICU ain't no bed now. You know what I'm saying? And so when I realized it, this when I realized it, like God. And so people like, hey, D, like, yeah, you the caregiver, but you gotta take care of yourself. And then the first time, I told Larry this almost the first time I had to walk in that hospital and leave her in the hospital. The first time I had to walk in that hospital and leave her in there to come back the next day. That's what I do. Ain't nothing you can do about it. I'm not every night, but the first time I remember, man, I walked that hallway and I had a room at the Augusta area. And walking out of there, I was like, man, I need to be staying. If I stay, what happens with my body break down? So just walking out, and then eventually I got to a point where it was like, I'm cool with it. You know what I'm saying? But that very first time leaving out of the ICU and walking up the hallway and leaving her there overnight by herself, oh man, had to put it back down. Because because at the end of the day, no matter me and my children, don't get me wrong, I had a great support group back here, this and that, but just you personally as a man. Because in that moment, particularly with your spouse, children, or whoever, if it go down like it's gonna go down, you want to be known that you did everything you could, so you would have no regrets. So that would be mine.
That is a very strong one, having no regrets. And again, putting the bat down and letting go so you can actually be more to the other ones,
Right.
obviously, is a thing that's pretty tough. It's a very tough thing, even in that story there, for a man to put the bat down. Like Jesse said, you don't own nothing. But we think our efforts are going to allow us to control the outcome every single time. Maybe if I work harder, maybe if I try harder, maybe if I'm a little bit nicer, maybe if I'm this, maybe if I'm that. There's a lot of things you put in front of realistically saying, you know what, God, thank you for everything you've given me. Let me manage what I've managed, but I got to hand it back to you. I'm going to go back in the stands and cheer. I'm about to watch you do your thing. And whatever your thing is, it's going to be great for me. All right, Steve, it's on you. Tell me about the time you had to put that bat down and let go.
So I'll be honest. Just listening to this is stressful. Just listening to brothers talk is stressful. But I'm a challenge y'all on something you said. You talk about how like you just have to let when you walk away, that God has to handle it. I'm gonna tell you. You talk about just dropping the bat. We got to keep it real with brothers and people that's watching. There's still other stuff you can do with the bat. You can still take the bat and harm somebody else. You can still take that bat and harm yourself. Some people don't just drop the bat. You got to teach people how to drop the bat. It's easier said than just dropping the bat because you go through so much. And as I think about the stressful piece, I consider people who work, grind like we do, I compare it to like Wi-Fi. We're Wi-Fi. People get their strength from our signals. And we connect other people. They get based on our strength. And so we try to be so much for everybody else. We're trying to make sure everybody else connects. And so we're that Wi-Fi signal. It's invisible. You can't touch it. You can't go by, but we send off a certain vibe that creates a sense of change and a sense of urgency wherever we go. When all of us show up in different places, things change as a result, and we think we have to be there at all times because we understand we have purpose. We understand God has done some stuff for us, and so we never turn off. We stay on for our signal to be on for everybody else, to keep everybody else connected to whatever it is that we're in. But as I think about, going through like with my folks, I usually don't talk about it. But as I think about going through with my folks, I think when they were murdered and how me and my brother and my sister, how we're still here. And you talk about swinging the bat, man, we all had different emotions about that bat thing. It wasn't a matter of just dropping the bat. It wasn't a matter of just dropping the bat. We considered all the other different things to do with the bat. It's a whole so much. And I think what a lot of people don't realize is that it's not that moment. It's not a moment that you drop a bat, it continues. Year after year, day after day. You have those different things. So let me run into what it really looks like in real life. So I lost my mom, my dad, my brother, and then my other brother's in jail. So you think about that. So all four of me, Randy, and Robin are still out right now. But what does it really look like for us? January is my sister's birthday. So I'm thinking about what my mom always did for us on our birthdays. My granddaddy's birthday was also in January. My dad retired to go take care of my grandfather. My grandfather kept saying, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe this happened. And I think that sped up him passing. Then February, that's my daddy's birthday. March, that's my mama's birthday. April, that's my birthday. I'm looking for just a little simple $25 check that my mama sent us every birthday. May, that's the month that it happened. That's also Randy's birthday. That's also the Mother's Day. It's all of that happened. That's May. Then you have June. June is when we finally were able to bury them. June is Father's Day. Then we come back to August. August is my parents' wedding anniversary. Then you come back to September. September is my brother's birthday. October, that's my other brother's birthday. I'm sorry, I skipped July. July is 4th of July. That's when I always went back to cook for the family. We always came back. August, my parents' birthday, wedding anniversary. September, and I forgot April again, is my daughter's birthday. First grandchild. Then you have September, Russell's birthday. October was Ryan's birthday. And guess what? He's still a living soul. We still got to reach out to my brother no matter what. He's still a soul that has to try to get to heaven. November, that's Thanksgiving. December, that's Christmas. And it starts all over again. So it ain't a matter of you just dropping the bat. We don't just drop bats. Stuff comes back up and there's no way at the plate all the time. And we have to make a choice. You have to do stuff to try to drop the bat. It ain't just that simple. And you got to get into habits. And you got to do things in your life. You got to have that replacement in your life so that you won't do other things with the bat. You got to find it. You got to train it. And it's like we talk about, we were trained to do that. No, what we were trained to do is not talk.
That's right.
We were trained to avoid the conversation, and then we continue to keep on moving. That's what we're trying to do. So when you start talking about it, and as I go through that, and I'm not Wi-Fi for everybody. I still got to come back to school. I'm sitting there in Augusta thinking about I got to go back to work, and because I am who I am, I got to go back and get these people this energy. They're looking for it. I got to keep giving people energy because that's who I am. What do they expect? What do they expect? I don't need them to handicap me because I still have a gift, but I got to go back and give. I got to be a hot spot. But then it got to the point where you just couldn't take enough. You couldn't do it anymore. Guess what happened? Brothers like them became my hot spots. They became hot spots. They turned their hot spots on to give me energy from where I was. They gave me, they turned it on. See, people thought it was just that day, but then nobody knew about when the trial happened. And having to go back and relive everything again, sitting in the courtroom. They became my hot spots. The brothers came to the house out of the blue. It just showed up. just showed up to my house out of the blue because they knew I was going through that. Couldn't take it, but just seeing them come back in and turn all their hot spots on to give me a little power because all the signal strength I had was gone. I had nothing else for nobody else. And so when we talk about that, and we talk about the stressful situation, I usually don't talk about it. Me, Randy, Robin, we usually don't say anything, but I just felt it was now's the time to kind of talk about it because it's deeper than us just saying drop a bat.
That in itself, if you look at the timeline he gave you.
Hey, thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you for sure for sharing that. The timeline he gave you never stopped. When we talk about as men, what we deal with stress-wise, imagine everything he just named, but at the same point in time, guess what? Gotta go to work. Same point in time, gotta pay a bill. Same point in time, deal with how society looks at you, like Julio was saying. Same point in time, pick up everything around you, keep that bat in your hand. It's over and over. It's another brick on someone's back. Now, luckily, like he said, he had the other brothers to help him. And that's why podcasts like this is important. Sometimes you have to be there for other brothers in this way. And we had to find everyone else's signal, to be honest. Go ahead.
But not to cut you off, but the thing is, it was brothers. Like we all have been alive and wild, but it was brothers who had Christ in them. Because the only thing that was going to get us through that, the only thing when we were down, when we couldn't even think straight enough to pray. It was, when they say other people praying for you, it was people praying. People prayed so much that when some of that stuff happened, we couldn't even remember what was going on. Because I think it was prayer shielding our minds. Because I mean, we could have lost our minds during that particular time, and still even months later. But it was the good Lord's and the prayers from brothers and the good Lord that kept our minds where we were.
That's a great thing. That's the other part of it too. Steve brought up a very important part. What'd you do with that bat? Like I said, if you let that bat go and let God take over, you still got that bat in your hand to do some things with it. And as men, we know one thing. We don't deal with emotions the right way. But for men, when we don't deal with emotions the right way, it gets dangerous. Now, when I say dangerous, think about everything we talked about today. Our health, our relationships, our commitments that we have, and even more importantly, probably how we act out when it comes to that bat in our hand and what we may do to other people. I mentioned earlier when we first started, hey, we always angry. Think about it. Steve just showed you. He may be happy that day. He may be functioning that day. Just like Dominique said. Just like Jesse said. Just like John said. Just like Julio said. We all have this identity. We are everything to everyone around us because we feel we must be. But sometimes we get around with brothers and learn that, hey, sometimes you gotta let that go. Put that bat down and allow God to take place. Because we wear all this type of armor. We always wearing something on us to show who we are. You know, it's like, hey, this is who I am. I want you to see me as this because I don't want you to really see me as Steve said. I ain't had this conversation with nobody. I don't want you to really see me as my pain. Because that shows you my weakness. And as men, we're not allowed to show weakness, no matter what. Now, talking about armor, what we wear on our bodies and stuff like that to protect ourselves, let's talk a little bit more now about health. Going to the gym and being healthy and trying to focus on what it takes to maybe show a different version of yourself and how we may think at certain point in times it is definitely helping us and making us healthier, but we are wearing what you call a mask, something that is hiding sometimes our true being from everyone else. So Steve, we'll start with you, so we ended with you in the last segment to talk about wearing your armor, going to the gym, what's important about it, and how that can sometimes be something that can bring us back into ourselves. If you don't mind breaking it down for us, please.
Well, I think it's important to know a lot of people get up in the morning, go through the ritual, brush your teeth, take a shower, do what you do. You go to your closet, you pick your pants, your suit. But what we're not talking about is people pick their masks too. What mask they go wear for the day. People are picking out masks. There's a certain mask that we wear each day because we're trying to hide some of this stuff. Even with our health, when it comes down, you see Larry, picture perfect person of just picture perfect, and was going through all of that. We go to the gym sometimes to add to our mask, to add to our costume. We go back in and we want to get that pump. We want to get the pump. We want to be vibrant. We want to talk about how much we've grown. We overemphasize and we overcompensate on the gym issue to keep from talking about our real health issue. avoiding what we're doing. My blood pressure is sky high, so I'm gonna work out and get the good pump so that I can keep talking about the good pump. So I can talk about how much I'm lifting now, how long I'm running now, how long I'm on the Stairmaster now, how early I get up in the morning to go do all of this, and I'm really not talking about my levels, not talking to the brothers about my blood pressure. I'm not telling the brother, man, brothers, hey, no, they talking about I'm pre-diabetic, and we have somebody who's actually gone through that can actually tell what's going on. But instead of me reaching out, talking to Larry, I go to the gym and I talk to Larry about what I do in the gym because he's physically fit. So I'm hiding against another costume. But what I really need to be talking about is, bruh, they say I'm pre-diabetic. What can I do to avoid going to that next stage? What do I really need to do? And I think that we just use the gym sometime as to add to our costume to cover up our poor health issues.
And that's the thing we talked about in our last podcast about wearing a mask and covering the costume, about working out. It's the appearance of being okay. A lot of us appear to be okay because we have to be okay. There's no in between that for a man. You have to be okay. But like you were saying in the last segment about being the Wi-Fi for other brothers, that's what happens here. We have to be okay. As far as going to the gym, for you other brothers on the panel, it's an open question. Do you find going to the gym, as Steve mentioned, do you find places where you've done the same thing and wore a mask or put on your armor before you go do anything to say, hey, the gym is going to protect me, this pump is going to protect me, how I look on the outside is going to protect me versus who I really am? I see John laughing. Uh-oh, what we got going on? Go ahead and answer.
And for that very reason is why I don't go to the gym.
Time out. Wait, time out.
You ain't gonna fool your stuff on.
We some other trouble. I'm the subject.
All those reasons that he stated is why I don't go to the gym. I be talking stuff out. I use my mouth to talk stuff. No, seriously. For me, I don't go to the gym. I go to the park and walk around because I like being outside amongst nature and hearing the birds chirp. Because it's funny, I grew up in the city, but I really love and appreciate the country living.
You like nature?
Yeah. And so,
Can't like birds? Can't like birds?
Both of y'all can
You
love
can't
it.
like the chirping.
It's not manly. It's not a
Love
manly
it.
thing.
Love it all. I love it.
yeah, so for me, that's you have to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah, true.
Because some people, it may be going to the gym. But here's the thing. People can go to the gym every day, work out good every day. But if your heart ain't right, what's the use of you going to the gym? If you gonna act ugly and you beautiful on the outside, you still a flaw and you still a sick. So I just wanted to add that part in. I know that wasn't the answer to the question, but if you want me to answer, I'll answer it. What was it again? But I just wanted to let people know why I don't go to the gym. I go to the park out there in Roberta and walk.
He thought y'all was judging him. That's why he bring an answer.
And for you, I'm a both end guy, so I can do nature, pretty much on the street though, or I can do the gym. For me, I go, and there's a group of us who, like, you got a community. So we see each other, we ain't doing no talking, we're gonna dap you up, everything good, we're gonna go on and get this treadmill, a pump, and when I get through that, I got a little bench, I just sit down and I meditate. So when I get through about 30, 40 minutes, I still meditate, but I do other things too. I like birds, squirrels, foxes.
Thank you for your specific testimony.
Nature testimony. I like birds. I like squirrels.
Yeah, I didn't let John. Well, I really let JP know. I want to know I'm with him. I didn't want him to be feel alone. You and JP to feel along with birds.
I swim, but I don't find peace at the gym typically when I go. I'm just looking for peace and solitude and meditation. Typically,
Can you even go without somebody talking to you? Not trying to be funny.
That's what I said. I don't. It's no peace.
Watch your mic.
No, it's really no peace, right? Typically,
Yeah.
I mean, I have been startled by people on a run, just standing there and they'll ask me something, and you trying to. So it's really a lot of peace. So I stay home.
This makes sense. Jess, you want to add to that?
So for athletes, and this is kind of dangerous, see the gym changes. It was a time I was lifting weights every day because I was made to. I was running every day because I made to. So when I got to playing ball, I was glad to leave that all behind.
No.
And you get hard-headed because you've been doing this since you 8 years old. You're an athlete, so I've been training. I'll never forget, it's funny. My wife told my mother-in-law one time, they had moved and there was a gym, and she said, oh, Jesse would love this. She probably don't even remember that, but I remember her saying that to her mother, that I love working out so much because I was an athlete. I just wanted to be around this. And as you get ready to matriculate, that's a word that y'all. As you matriculate away from that, you matriculate away from that. Because you've been in college, that's a whole nother demon. And I did say demon. I wish I didn't like football. I could have went to school. I was smart. I could have went to school. I had to play no football. I wish I'd have been smart enough to do that. Just go to school. But man, that thing beat my body up and my mind up so bad that when it was time for me to come away from it, I got away from it. And here's the other thing now. I didn't realize it was a vice. So what's important is that you gotta find your gift so it can also be your vice.
That's good.
That's all right right there. Now,
Let me fix that for you. So
Come on, preacher.
I say this, Dominique. I say this a lot. I send texts out at like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So there's a lot of people here know
Every day.
Yeah, I say not every day.
oh, so that'd be you?
Yeah, that'd be
Long text.
Like it's brick.
Long text.
And he got my Bible app here. I'm like, sir.
Long text.
So
Get the word right there, though.
I actually realized what my gift was. See, if I ask you guys in the room what you know what your gift is, you don't know. So it's a cheat code to it, right? Your gift is what you do better than anybody else. It don't take you no effort. And you know you're doing. See, that's why it's innate. But when I figured out what my gift was, I started using it as my vice. So when I had a problem or stress or situation, that was my gym. Going back to my gift to give my gift to that as a vice to my situation. If that makes any sense.
That definitely does.
Listen, and it's gonna sound weird. It's just who I am now. Can't even stop. I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go to work. My wife hated it. I literally get up, get my stuff together. I go in my office. I don't shower at home. And I don't do that because I don't love my wife and my kids in my house. I do it because if I don't go search for my gift and use it to give to somebody else, I will succumb to some of that stuff that's out there that's triggering me or making me think a certain way or making me, because I told you now, if I ask you who you talk to more than anybody else, you won't talk to nobody more than you talk to yourself. So all that mess about you ain't supposed to talk to yourself, that's a lie. That is a complete lie. You're gonna talk to yourself more than you talk to anybody. Man, I was back there eating and drinking some stuff back there, and I was thinking to myself, man, that'd go good with something else, that juice over there. Now, again, I'm just being honest. I'm saying, you think you just, that's what thinking is.
Say that out loud.
I know, I'm being transparent. I'm just being
It's a safe
transparent.
place. Safe place.
But again, and I'm done, but listen, when you can use your gift as a vice, you can take a whole lot of stress and pressure off yourself.
That's true.
That's definitely good. I will say this, from being up here, we learned particularly that iron sharpens iron. And you brothers up here, as we heard earlier, that we lean on each other. That's one of the things that's really kind of magic about how brothers can actually lean on each other and get past a few different things. And then of course learn more about each other by what we're hearing in our stories.
Right.
One of the major things, I guess, as you mentioned your gift, Jesse, is of course, lean on other brothers and coaching and things like that. Because I know you're a coach, correct?
I am.
Yeah, so what are some of the
I am coaching.
You are coaching. What are some of the things, I guess, in coaching, which life coaching, coaching kids, coaching men, whatever you want to call it, because it's all the same, iron sharpening iron. What are some of the key things that keep you going, or what are the key factors you make sure you always share with either the men you coach, the young men you coach, or even like how you're in the session with us right now? What are some key things you share?
So people think it's about winning games, and that's important. But you can win and still get fired. Never happened. We won a lot in Millersville, Georgia, in Baltimore High School. We just come off a playoff run. I was called into the office and told, your services are no longer rendered. Right? And the first thing I did was, I didn't get upset. You know why I didn't really get upset? I was upset, but I wasn't really that upset. Because at the end of the day, when God threw at you working somewhere, and you ain't got enough sense to get your butt up and leave, He'll move you.
Yep, true. Yep.
So I told people this after it happened, and everybody was so shocked and all this kind of stuff. I said, man, God was through with me working there.
That's good, yeah.
And so when he's through with you working there, see, when you go somewhere to do anything, this is a point I try to teach my kids, my players. When you through working somewhere, you ain't gleaning there no more. You better get up and move. And boy, I tell you something. And my wife says something to me all the time. She think I don't listen. I listen to man, me and my wife went to the prom.
Wait a minute, we can't see her face. We can't see her face. I want to make sure she agrees. Okay, I just want to make sure. I told her I was checking on her.
My wife tells me all the time, so she said, Jesse, everybody ain't you.
Yep.
Everybody don't think like you. Everybody don't have the same concepts as you. So stop putting everybody in that Jesse Hicks box. And I learned so much. She don't think I listen, but I do. But at the end of the day, I want these kids to understand. I tell young coaches this all the time. I told a guy this just the other day. My youngest coach is my son. You don't know how it goes full circle. My son pledged the fraternity in 22, then he came back. And then it took my wife to say, you know, I think Jeremiah ready to be elevated. I'm like, yo, what you talking about? And I started paying attention to my son, but I took him for granted because he's in my house.
Mm-hmm.
Then I realized that Joker the best coach I got. And I never forced my son to want to pledge. I never forced him to coach football. I never did any of that. But the connection was there. And I said, until you learn how to win people, you ain't gonna win no games.
That's it.
And that's the one thing I try to tell these players all the time. Hey man, if you want to win, right, win people. That's the one thing I'm really proud of. You got to win people, because when that kid, ain't no state championship like a kid calling to me, hey coach, I just want to say appreciate you for what you did for me. This is my son, this is my wife. That's the state championship right there. No, don't get me wrong. I know the lie. Yes, I want to win a state championship. Yes, I do. But if God don't want me to, and that ain't my plight, I gotta win people.
That's strong right there.
We want about that? Keep going.
No, that is definitely some good stuff. It's all about coaching. Like I mentioned earlier, iron sharpening iron. That's what you see up here on this panel is iron sharpening iron. And of course, with iron sharpening iron, we're trying to make sure that we keep ourselves in control and how we do different things. You've heard from a lot of great speakers up here talking about, what they do, how they handle life, how they look at life. We heard Larry come up here and talk about what he has to deal with and how he dealt with it and with the armor, as we mentioned, how Steve was talking about, that we wear every day to show everybody else. And that happens on a daily basis for us men up here. We all have a certain thing that we're trying to show everyone else because we're trying to be this thing. Because as young men, unless we have coaches like, Jesse in our lives, we don't know what it means to be a man. All we know is what everyone else tells us. That's why it's very hard to talk to a man and say, hey, when's the last time you cried? He gonna look at you like, man, I don't cry. Until they get to past that 30 level and they have to deal with that. They call, like you just mentioned, Steve, parents going away, dying and stuff like that. Oh, you're gonna find out how to cry. Yeah. You're gonna find out quickly how to cry. I mean, I had a stressful situation, I think I mentioned on the last podcast, that I didn't cry when my brother got shot and died. I didn't. I was in 7th grade, didn't know how to cry. No one ever taught me how to cry. But you know what that issue taught me? Real quick, my health was affected. I was a 7th grader. Remember the cuts we used to have back then, little nice little cuts with 3 little parts and stuff like that? I used to have a little fade. Back when I had hair. Don't look at me like I ain't had hair, first of all. Back when I had hair, I used to have a little fade, whatever. But because I had so much stress with my brother passing away, I ended up getting bald spot patches in the back of my head in 7th grade. God gonna deal with you. If you don't come to him to deal with you, is the best way I can put it. If you don't go to God to deal with you, God gonna deal with you. He gonna find a way to deal with you. So all you men have shared some great stories.
Hey, Troy, I just want to interject just one thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
We gotta understand something now. Sometimes you are the only example these young people see. I thought it was, my wife would stand out there, she would come on the field every time we had a game and she would hug all the players. I had a player ask me one time, well, it's tough for me. He said, do you and your wife hear the girl coach? Y'all sleep in the same bed, y'all in the same house. You don't realize you are the example a lot of times for them young people, man. And it's so important, man, that you don't take that for granted. And I ain't perfect, trust me, she'll tell you this, she know that. I'm not perfect at all. But man, just the example of me being a husband to my wife, a father to my daughter and my son, an example to them would give them the understanding that I ain't got to go down that road. Coach Chick showed me how to do it. Don't ever take your presence and your ability to pour into somebody. Don't take that for granted. Because sometimes they watching and they ain't saying nothing. That's important. I just want to interject.
No, that's some good stuff. That's some good stuff, definitely.
Say that again.
So that's why sometimes it's hard for me to say no.
You know, you might
I
be
ain't never seen my dad in my life.
That's powerful. I think I missed that a second ago. It's hard for him to say no because he was never seen his dad in his own life, so he don't want to be that same absent father, even if it ain't to his own kids. Is that about that's close to where I'm talking, right, Julio?
I ain't never seen my dad. If he was in this room, I wouldn't know who he was.
Wow. A lot of stuff, as Julio mentions that before I get to the next segment, a lot of stuff we talk about, until as a man you go to therapy, there's a few things you'll know about yourself. My first time going to like a therapy session that was revealing for me is when I was in a session and the therapist goes, "So you've never known your father?" I go, "No." He's like, "So where did anger go?" I said, "What anger?" He said, "Well, how do you operate in work?" I said, "Well, I'm gonna be number one at work. Anybody come to me, I'm gonna make sure." He's like, "That's the anger." I said, "Oh, is that the anger?" I said, "Yeah." I didn't realize that there are things that happen to us as young men,
Right.
that will condition how we move in life.
Yep.
And sometimes we're blind to it, completely blind to it. I had no idea I had trauma from not having a father in my life where I looked at things that happen at work like I have to win. Because if I don't win and I don't find a way to be accepted by everyone else, who am I? To even bring it even further to Jesse's part about being a coach. Funny enough, as big as I am, I really don't like football. And people say, "Well, you played football, you were great at one Division I school, you played basketball, you did all that stuff." What people don't realize, the only reason I played a sport is because there was a black man saying, "Hey, I think you're good at this. Come back tomorrow
Yep.
so you can do this again."
Absolutely.
So wait a minute, you telling me you want to hang around me, but my daddy don't like me, but you want me to come? Oh, well, what do you need me to do then? I'll come back tomorrow. Coming back tomorrow, come back again. I was around coaches like Jesse growing up that were the father figures for me. They didn't know that. I didn't even know that at the time. I learned this in therapy. Because I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't watch football on Sundays. I don't care. I play football, but I don't watch football. I don't want to see men run around in tights. No offense to anybody who watch football, but that's not my thing. I was drawn to sports and drawn to the organization, drawn to the structure of it because it felt like having a father in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Just think about that. I was great at sports, but I wasn't there because I was great at sports. I was there because somebody accepted me for who I am and wanted to be around me and asked me to come back. They didn't say, "No, I ain't got time for you today, man. I'm with my other kids. No, this Sunday, I ain't got time to talk to you." That's the last words I heard from my dad, by the way, when I was 7 years old. After that, another man telling me I'm okay to do stuff and be part of an organization and he wants to see me.
He found value in you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's something when you find value. That's why we talk about iron sharpening iron. We have value in each other. You know, we realize that and we share that. We share that with you guys today. Let's talk about one more topic here before we go to Q&A with the audience. And as I see you brothers sitting up here, you know, all of us were ex-athletes, ex-that, ex-this or whatever. And our thrill, like Jesse was saying, was back in the day, we was the man, we go to practice every day, everything like that. But eventually what happens is the thrill does leave you. And the thrill of whatever you were chasing when you were young, when the thrill is gone, that thrill does shift into something else. You know, and it all depends on where it's going to shift into, where it's going to go. So when the thrill is gone, what I'm saying is that youthfulness of yourself, that vitality you had, that I can do this attitude, I can do this, and I can conquer the world. There's a point as a man you realize you have to step back and like, wait a minute, the world ain't mine to conquer. What I got to conquer is this family, this God, and make sure that I'm a image to my community. So I want to talk to y'all about when the thrill is gone, the moment you learn and realize that, hey, wait a minute, the stuff I chased in my youth is not what I'm chasing going forward. I think you mentioned the Julio 52 Saturdays. Realistically, I mean, hey, we got what, 40 summers left? I'm gonna let that sink in. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. We got about what, 40 summers left? We all over 40, right? Statistically, men die at around 65 to 80 is that age bracket. So we got about 40 summers left when you really think about that, if we live right. And maybe even longer than that. So, fellas, the question again stands as the thrill is gone. What was a moment that you realized that the things you chased in your youth, you can no longer chase going forward? I'll start with you, Dominique.
Thank you for starting with that.
Oh man, I had a lot of really gone moments. Yeah, I don't even know what they're saying right now. Man, I'm trying to think of one.
That's because y'all know each other. Y'all know we all had the both of y'all
Right.
real. That's what it is. They trying to
Yeah.
that one time that she told
So
you
I
no.
think one of not married to this and that. I think so. It's been several thrillers gone moments. I'm trying to get as quick as I can. One of them was my last college basketball game, and I just remember the clock going off, and and I looked like man, it was over. Like kind of like Jesse said, like everything I've been doing since I was in second, third grade, like it's over. Like it's really like that's it. Um, and I had to deal with it. I had to deal with it. Um, so that's one. Let me not go deep in that's one. I think when I got married, right, you realize when you choose the one, you have to say no to the other all.
I'll say that again. If you choose the one, you gotta say no to others.
Yeah, you gotta say no to the
I thought you say no to them before you choose.
Well,
My bad. I don't know it.
Well, when you choose what you should, right? But when I told one of my cousins this, I said the problem is, I'm gonna call it name. So the problem is you want the one, but you still want a mama. And sometimes you have to just realize you can't have a mama. And then when you get to the point and you realize, I know we have our sisters in here, so I gotta be careful saying this. When we realize how intricate they are, you realize all this other stuff was just physical. You ain't really pleasing them anyway. So you feel like you see how much you had to put in to please one. So the other just is what it is, right? But that's what a thrill is gone. They really want like a thrill is gone. It was more so a maturity type issue. Yes. It was more mature in this thing. Now I get to do everything here. And I think, man, back again, I'm going back to the next group. Came up, and I think the first time I had to go, I'm thinking about my bro like I do it. He just said something, but anyway, about getting a diet plan off, which is cool. But I think the first time I had to buy my pant size went up. I said,
It got real then.
I said, wait a minute, what is going on? So that, and I'm saying this, I'm still a lot of times, y'all, like the brain jokes and stuff. Because once this is over with, like I go back in that office, I'm locked in. So really, when I probably should be serious sometimes, it's really my moment to just kind of relax. You know, I'm riding people, but I'm telling you, once all y'all clear out today, like literally, like it's on. Like I'm locked in. I'm working on another degree. I'm doing this. I'm getting ready for tomorrow morning, and I'm locked because I understand that there are kids out there who looking for a next meal.
So what's your new thrill?
Huh?
What's your new thrill at this age? What's your new thrill? What's the thing that's driving you this time?
Oh, that's good. So the thing that's good. So here's something, and I want to be careful saying this. My children. My children are some of the most resilient people I think you want to meet after what they had. This drives me. You know what I'm saying? This drives me because I'm getting to share. I'm learning. So learning thrills me, giving back thrills me, and seeing people walk at their fullest potential. Nice. That's what thrills me. And this one last thing, so one of the really things I ever heard was two things. Come say my daughter now, so 3. My daughter now said something. She want to see this episode. It's her way of being with had to pick up on it. Right, I couldn't be like, oh, girl, I tell you, got stuff to do. She said, we're gonna watch the Rizzoli or something. The series is old, man. She's like, hey, we're gonna watch the episode. So I almost joked like, man, wait, that's her saying, Dad, It's always spending time together. So I watch the episode. My son the other day said, "Hey man, I want you to know, Mama be proud of you. You doing all right." He talking to me like
Your son said that to you.
my son. He said, "Man, you doing a good job, right?" And
Wow.
he's the last one. Steve don't heard me say that the other day, and John. Y'all forgive me, I'm gonna say a word. I'm gonna say a word. So that's what you did. I'm gonna say a word. I'm just saying. I didn't teach him the word, but he called me DP. He was like, I picked up the phone. I said, "Yeah, what's up, man?" He said, "What's up, Dad? What you doing?" I said, "No, what's going on?" He said, "Man, I just need to hear a real nigga voice." You know what I'm saying? I said, "What?" I said, "Who that? He made this."
You like me?
Hey, I was like, "Back it up." Hey. Then I thought at that moment, though, Bob, I said, "Hold on. Yeah, we know you're a father. I need you to, I heard the Holy Spirit say you shouldn't be dad right now. Be dad right now." Okay, so tell me what's going on. Cause I knew it was something. And y'all knew what it was, yeah. Man, let me tell you, man, cut your losses, y'all. You know what I'm saying? No. But my whole point was this. When he wanted to hear, however he wanted to express, when he wanted to hear something real. That's it. He called me.
It's all right there. You got a new thrill in life.
That got me through.
JP, I'm gonna hand it over to you. Tell me about when the thrill is gone for you, and of course, what's your new thrill in life now?
For me, October the 14th, 2006 is when I really started to take my walk with Christ serious. And this was right after the time I just lost my mom, just lost my aunt, and just lost one of my favorite cousins back to back to back. And I realized within these last 20 years, over the last 10 years, my appetite for certain things have shifted and changed.
That's good, Jay.
And these guys and these brothers been knowing me for over 30 years. And they know how I used to be the ladies' man. And Nick still called me lover boy to this day.
Okay, damn
And so that appetite for trying to be what I thought was the man to many women has turned into me wanting to be the man for one woman. And so that part, that my appetite has shifted. So that goes back to what you were saying as far as maturing.
Yeah.
The things that I was doing at 30, I'm not doing at 50 right now. And because it took a mind shift change. The thrill now is getting ready to see my daughter get married.
That's good.
All right.
For two, I got her out of college and she's doing good for herself. My other thrill is actually pouring into the men that really need me and creating safe spaces for them to learn, grow, and heal. And this podcast, when I tell you, this has blessed my entire soul. And I was telling the fellas earlier today, a year ago today is when God gave me the vision to do this. And I just wanted to do it right before March ended. Unbeknownst to me, didn't know that this was the exact same day that God gave me this vision. And that goes to show me that I'm doing and walking in obedience and doing what I'm called to do. Even in spite of everything that I've dealt with over the last 5 years, I still have joy. And so that's my thrill.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I think it was a year ago when you and I met too also?
We met at my man cave in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the time, we were just, not to give y'all too much history, I had just popped up in there because I was actually trying to make my fiance go to something. And the lady was like, "Well, no, you should go to this thing." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm stuck. My girl needs to be around more women and do all this women stuff." It's like, "Well, there's a guy having a men's going on. You ought to show up to that." I said, "I'll show up to it, see what it's about." A year later, we've been doing this now. Just that quickly. We've been doing it for a year later. So I'm gonna pose a question again to Julio, Justy, and Steve. You guys want to answer before I go to Q&A? You guys want to answer that question too, as far as the thrill is gone? When the thrill has been gone for you, what's your new thrill in life? Anyone can answer. Any of you three.
I guess mine is just peace, and I know I keep saying it.
That's all
And don't feel like I'm missing out on it. You know, people see the calm demeanor now. It's funny. You know, I know it's see y'all. I mean, it's fun that the evolution of all of us. You know,
Right.
you know, we ain't always been the men we are now, but and easily my kid, you know, I'm super excited, you know, him following in my footsteps, and you know, it's you know dealing with, but it's not really dealing. It's a gift and a curse. I mean, he veterinary school is you know, it's 2% of black. He had his pick from Cornell to you know UPenn to, and so I can only go to one, and I was lucky to get it now. And so, you know, just kind of letting him see. But it's, you know, now that he'll be in the veterinary school, and taking over is, you know, you know, I can't wait to actually do my first surgery with him. You know, that's something I'm super,
Yeah, it's all right right there.
super, you know, excited about.
It's like LeBron, his son, you over there,
Right,
pick and
yeah,
roll,
right,
you know, it's
right.
awesome. That's definitely
Yeah.
very awesome, seriously. Jesse, you want to go, or Steve?
No, which one? Y'all seen the meme when they were calling LeBron and his son?
Oh, when they say Bron,
And they called LeBron, the coach called LeBron to come in the game. And so LeBron Sr. was like, which one?
yeah.
And the coach was like, both of y'all. And so both of them got up and both of them checked in the game. And that's what I saw. Bernard,
Oh,
which
wow.
one?
Right.
Nah,
There you
that's
go.
dope, man.
No, it is. It's really amazing, especially when we talk about fatherhood and being able to see something you've built, you produce, do something and go through, because you went through your own challenges. And
Right.
granted, just like you just mentioned, you would have one school that
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
great to get into. You know what I'm saying? Great schools to get into.
Yeah.
He's choosing which one he want to go to. That stands to talk about how you've grown and been
Right.
able to provide as a man even more for your generations going forward and forward from that. Steve, or Jesse, want to add into that question at all?
All right, so
Thrill is gone.
the thrill's gone. I think it happens in stages in our life. You know, you go through stages at different times, and you become a man at different points. But I think the real one that really just got me focused was the day, I think it was 2019, the day I had to stand up in the courtroom and ask that man not to kill my brother, but to put him on death penalty because on behalf of my family, because we didn't want to see nobody else die. I had to ask him, beg for his life to be spared just because. And so it really put my mind in different perspectives of things, of how we treat people, how quickly people can go, what's important. That peace that Julio talked about, that's the vibe I'm on right now, like figuring out how to protect your peace and really being, putting yourself in a place where you can be surrounded by peace and not putting yourself in those uncomfortable positions. So that was really, I think, something that really stands out. But I think the one big thing is he doesn't even know it, but like Jesse, I watched his son and his daughter. I watched his son and his daughter go through school, and then I watched Jesse at homecoming. And so I knew one day my daughter was going to go to homecoming, and I always wondered my daughter be in college. My daughter gonna be in college one day. Good grief, man, what is this gonna be like? I know I'm gonna be at the Valley, but I saw Jesse and I saw how his daughter was and how she was and how well respected she was, and I just really wanted that for my child. I wanted to model the way and pour seeds into my daughter so that nobody else could pour seeds, because that seeds are always going to be sown. Seeds are always, but you have to be consistent with watering the seeds that you pour in your children. So I was consistent about it. And so, but now to see my child in college now and to see that, hey, you know, they different, like y'all, we're all going out here, and who's y'all? With this group, they got the girls and the guys. What you talking about? Yeah, who? You got the girls and the guys, and I'm thinking like,
What you talking about?
yeah, what you talking about? Like, we wasn't in college with the girls and the guys and all of us, but I'm sitting there looking. But what I saw was, as she talked, and even as she brings them up to the house now, Dad, no, Dad, they good. These guys here know what they're supposed to do. Just like you taught me, they got to come out, and then when you walk outside, man, we out here, y'all already know. They opening up the doors, they know what to do. And like even just this week, went to convocation, and all of them are coming looking for me. Hey, Mr. Jones, hey, Dr. Jones, how you doing? You know, what's going on? It let me know, gave me some reassurance that, you know what? You've been pouring the right seeds into your daughter. I did, she's okay. She's okay. God got her. She's good. You remember the seeds that you sown. Me and her mom have done a good job. We haven't been perfect. We haven't been picture perfect, but we've done a good job in raising our daughter. And I see it as her friends come back up and the respect they show. And they look at, it's Mr. Steve here today. Where Mr. Steve at? Is he here? They came and sat behind me at the convocation. They wanted to just come sit up and just to fist bump me while they sat up there and waited. And so that's my new thrill, just watching my daughter live life. I want her to be better than me and her mother were, be better than us. And so I'm just excited about watching her grow and become that young, virtuous lady she's supposed to become.
That's awesome
Now,
right
you
there.
know, before yesterday ago, that was interesting. You said that because when I came back on the yard at Payne, you know, Josh was playing, Josh played that Payne, so it kind of like surreal. Like I'm on the yard, I'm seeing that dude, I'm like, who is this? Like, this dude really? Oh, he my son, he my chapter, bro. I'm like, yeah, yeah. Then I'm like, he's so nice. Now I'm like, well, he might have been no stupid, you know that. But anyway. Y'all know to be silly. But okay, look, you want to be nice, you don't want to be soft. You know, oh, yeah, Jess, I'm sorry.
Jesse, you want to add something to close it out?
Yeah, man. Whatever you do in life, don't find your somebodyness in your job and your profession. I tell my players all the time, football is what you do, is not who you are.
That's good, Jess.
It's just a portion of who you are. You know what I'm saying? So the thrill is gone. I had the opportunity along my line brother Bosque. My son was online at Benedict East Square, and we all traveled down to visit him.
He knew y'all was coming.
He had no other choice. And so my son marches in with his friends, and man, I almost couldn't take it. You know, there's a scripture that says one man plant, another man waters, and God gives the increase. And so to see your seed increase, that was the moment that I knew that because, you know, I'm tombstone. I'm Jesse, you know, I got this and that going on. And so to see my son come through the fold, and I got a chance to help him with that process, right? I got a chance to walk him through the frame. And that just completely put me in a whole different stratosphere. Because I knew then that something I had done was right. And I asked him, I said, man, what made you want to play the kid? He said, because I saw y'all. I saw the connection. I saw y'all love each other. That is you and Uncle Bosque and Uncle Harry and 96, all of y'all got. I want that.
Well, yeah.
What
Okay, here we go.
Oh, 96.
Okay.
Where's she in the frame?
Okay, keep going.
I didn't interrupt you. But that, and my wife can attest to this, and I heard it when Steve said it. When we go to Benedict, we treat it like we went to Benedict. My son is so beloved on that campus that everybody on that campus pulled me and my wife and my daughter in like you think we went to school with them. Well, Pop said, well, Mama had, and they will come and they will bring us food, and I'm like, okay, the thrill is gone, but the thrill is still in him.
Ooh, that's powerful.
Because sometimes you pour into people and you become empty. If don't nobody pour back into you, you just a vessel. But my son playing ball, pledging the frat, and now being my co-worker, I tell him all the time, I say, son, I will always be your father, but I'm not your friend. And that's totally different for me. So my thrill is watching my boy.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You guys have all talked about things that obviously other men wish they could have with their family and stuff like that. You've all been through a lot of different things. And as you guys listen to these stories, again, iron sharpening iron, that's what's happening up here right now and what happens throughout their lives throughout day to day, of course. So I'm gonna give the audience a chance to ask questions. If you have one or two questions, raise your hand and speak as loud as you can from that area. Anyone have a question from the audience at all to any of the men up here, you can ask any question you like. So who wants to ask the first question?
No question? Okay, good.
All right.
I got something else to miss.
Okay, then I have the final question. Again, I just want to let you guys know, again, this is Beyond the Cave podcast. As you see here, as men up here in the panel, we have Julio, we have JP, we have Jesse, we have Dominique, we have Steve, and of course myself, Toy McCoy. So I do want to end this with with one question that I want you guys, to all of you all, of course.
Like I know we have some introverts, so it takes them a minute to think too.
Oh, okay.
No, I lived with an introvert, so I know sometimes we'll keep moving, yeah. So
this is gonna be the second altar call.
Yeah.
And if anybody want to ask Larry anything as well,
Right.
because I know somebody wanted to ask something.
I had a question for Larry, but I asked him earlier, and I'm gonna go ahead and share my question.
Yeah, 'cause
Oh,
I'm
let
not
me share-
forcing anybody, but
I'm gonna share let me share what I asked Larry earlier. I was like, Larry, so you got them kidneys? Was it white kidneys or black kidneys? Because I want to know if it check the fact your dance moves or anything like that. I had to check that. I'm sorry. That's my little question. I didn't ask that real question. I'm sorry. You have a question, Miss? Go ahead.
Huh?
Oh, she don't have a question on me?
oh, kid had a hand on.
I did, I thought you were saying her. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, if you have a question, go ahead.
So if a man is used to like handling things on his own, how can you support him with handling those things without making him feel like he's not like doing enough?
Great question. So the question is, as a woman, and a man is used to handling things on their own, as that woman to that man, how does your wife, your spouse, support you, being that you're so used to handling everything on your own? That's the question, fellas. What you got? Who wants to answer first? Jesse, you want to go?
Yeah, 27 years my wife and I have been married. Been together longer than that. And I've been a butthole. I ain't been the best husband all the time. I'm being honest with you. You know, but we still together. And I thank God for that,
Amen.
for that union. The one thing we got to understand is men, we read scripture, we read it for our own personal benefit. You know, it tells a woman to be submissive, but it says you got to be a man of God in order for her to be submissive. Keep reading, okay? One of the things as a lady as a man, and I guess I'm talking to somebody in here, the scripture says that you find a good thing when you find a wife.
And I'm playing the favor.
Thank you, Pastor. But it also says, I found a help meet. Let me help you. We meet in the middle, right? Not mate. Because anybody can mate. We know that, right? But let's find some equilibrium, some median right here together. We as men, a lot of times, we want to prove who we are, handling everything, and don't understand that without her, you lost. The truth of the matter is, all you've got to do is be there and to be a listening ear, and then turn around and listen to things that other men don't like. There ain't nothing wrong with correction. Just say, you ain't got to do this by yourself now. I'm here. I want to help. I want to be a help me. I want to be somebody you can lean on, because men, a lot of times, if they depending on how they grew up, they don't know how to do that. If you ain't got an example of how to be a good husband, you ain't gonna know how to be a good husband. My father that raised me, Ernest Graham, taught me that. Not my biological father, Julio, not the man who left when I was 3, but the man who stepped in when I was 9. Right? And the way he handled my mother, who said she was way worse than me. Lord, my mother was Bill Baker, wasn't wrong. Right? But the way he handled her with love. And so she would just simply allow him to speak stuff into her, because she wasn't used to that, because she got divorced when, she'd been married 5 years, got divorced. So a lot of times ladies have this hesitancy about correcting us. So they say correcting, but saying things to their husband. until they soulmate. I don't want to say nothing because I don't want him to get mad, and I don't want, man, listen, speak truth, be honest, and don't hesitate when it comes to saying those things that sometimes are hard for us as men to take. Don't step back. Don't say, I don't want him to get mad. Because I'd rather him get mad and it get fixed than that thing never get fixed and walk around mad your whole relationship. Don't be afraid to do that.
Anybody else want to add?
I just want to, one quick point, and there has to be compassion before there can be correction. And see, sometimes, and not saying that's the case with you, I saw a video and posted it on my page maybe about a week ago where this brother was sitting in the truck, and some of you all may have seen it. This brother was sitting, sleeping in the truck. And his wife came outside and she was upset, like, look at this, he out here sleeping. And he was saying that there's no peace in the house. And so she was, you didn't see that?
No, I'm just listening to the truck.
Oh yeah, he was sleeping in the truck. And see, it comes with, you have to know your significant other. You have to know what it is and have those hard conversations, because one of the worst things that you can do is not have a conversation. So, but like I said, I'm not going, but you have to come from a place of compassion before it's any correction.
Yeah, I just think at the end of the day, you do have to know your spouse, each other, right? On the man's side, it says, man should dwell with his wife according to knowledge, right? So I didn't marry Danielle, Steve didn't marry Chan, and all that. So I'm dwelling with my wife according to knowledge. And then when we come together, you got your master, your mate, and your mission. And so we got to understand what's our corporate mission right here. And so when I understand what my mission is, then, hey, babe, how can I help you in the mission? You let me know what I can do in the mission. You want me to do nothing? All right, I'll be over here and be a cheerleader. Now, but Jan had done because she was strong too. Like, she could do it herself, right? But what she had learned to say, you know what, if it go down, it's on you. I'm here to help, but if it go down, it's on you. Now, that's tough for because you don't want to go down. But what it does is take, quote unquote, a mantle off of you that you're not supposed to necessarily carry. But I also, what I do, I don't really do a whole lot of couples thing. More, I don't think it's my strongest gift. I do more executive and leadership coaching. But when I do sit down with couples, I do the first one, the last one, and I let my Mr. Dean, do the good one. But anyway, what I do is people like, I want you to think about this. We're on the same team. Whatever happens, baby, we're on the same team. We're not trying to outscore each other. Right? My job is really to assist you. You assist me, I assist you. As when you go back up to it again, Ephesians 5, in my bag. Now, it say, let's submit one to another. So there's a time I need to listen. That's the time God told Abraham to listen to the woman. She's right now. There's also a time that if this thing go down as a man, it still is on me. So the thing of it is how do we find our rhythm? Let's find our rhythm. It's a dance. This time I'm leading the dance. Next dance I might let you lead. So when we moving like that, we can sing. And that takes time. You know what I'm saying? It takes time, and you don't let it stress you, right? Because at the end of the day, particularly if you know you got a king, you got a boss, he chose you to ride with him on the mission. If you got a real one, he chose you to ride with him on the mission.
All great answers, all great answers. And the question you asked is timely too, because I can go ahead and chime in real quickly. This week alone, my fiance and I were going back and forth, and she was like, how can I help you? And I'm the type of man, I don't want your help, because if I get your help, I don't want to hear your mouth later by helping me. But that's something I have to deal with in myself. She offered the help. I was just being too, I guess, bullheaded and not want to take the help. But essentially what happens is that sometimes when you do ask for the help or the help is offered, we will give you pieces, because sometimes we may not trust fully giving you everything because we don't know how you're going to handle it. So as to the points here, it does take time. It takes time in listening on both ends, communication on both ends, and then adjusting. It's not going to be the one answer every time. You might say, well, do I need to just give you some money? It may not be money. Do I need to give you, probably help you with this contract? It may not be that. It may just be sitting in that room with that man while he figures it out, just being by his side. So great answers. Additional, any other questions? Yes, sir.
I don't have a question, I have a comment that I want to make.
Okay, go ahead.
He said, question.
You good.
We as men, we pride ourselves in being protectors. But believe it or not, women were the first protectors. Women were made from the rib of a man. And the ribs are to protect our heart. So when we get that information or that advice or that discernment from a woman, from a good woman who is really into her man, she's there not to tell us what to do, but really a lot of times, fellas, we gotta understand these women are trying to protect us from ourselves. So they are the number one protectors, okay? We are just protectors in strength because we're protecting our women from other men. I just want to conclude
Good
right
point. I
there.
know you were coming.
We know we want to raise
Oh,
fund.
hang on, black. Oh, hang on. And he said all this stuff up here, but this man started talking back. Hey, y'all gonna fight. Look at all the way. That's cool. That's cool. Man, so it's funny. You remind me of another quick joke, real quickly. When was Adam born? A little before Eve. That's a whole nother joke. All right, y'all get that. But that's y'all get that in the car when y'all go home. But any other questions before we go any further? I want to go ahead and close this out. Any questions, people? Any other hands up? Go ahead and ask it now. You go ahead and be vulnerable with us. We'll tell you the right answer.
Are we coming up? Don't have to.
You got another one? Oh, okay.
Hey, Tori, real quick.
Oh, you have a statement or a question? Who's that? Who has a statement?
Send my question, send my statement, but she was first.
Oh, well, who?
Oh, no, that's the comment. Two people, that kickstart a beam here in Macon, on stage. I didn't realize they were gonna be here, simultaneously. But, that continues to be in my life, just saying it, those 3 o'clock text messages. And, put me on the spot when I walked in the door, who you think you is, what you think you on the room, same way he invited me in the break room, to kickstart my coaching career 11 years ago. Me, but also, somebody on the stage who bumped on me, bumping on the play real hard. I started teaching under, Steve Jones. He sent me the sample with Jesse Heath, so, I wanna thank you, y'all.
She could have, he's trying to,
And, like I said, Steve Jones never hesitated every time he see me pour into me, tell me, what a good job I'm doing, even acknowledge that, no way, I realized I made a mistake, but I appreciate y'all, thank y'all for being my hot spot.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank y'all for your invite.
Thank you.
that's all right. You didn't have to get that out, but it's all right.
We have one more? Yes.
Am the type of person that I don't like to drive home with things in my heart that I didn't say out loud. So I like to commend all of you for your strength and tenacity and brilliance, articulation, all those things. But I'm a person that has worked around hospice and grief and, all those things that come with that field. And I'm wondering, because when we were in school, your contemporaries, when we were in school, we were taught the stages of grief. And we were taught that they were like stair steps, like you go from denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and acceptance. So we were, I'll speak for myself, because I don't know, but from my experience, it is not a stair step. It's not a progression, if you will. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
It's a cycle. And I try, whenever the opportunity presents itself, to teach that so that we don't feel that we're stuck. I can't tell you how many people that deal with a type of grief, not just death, but grief. And they think that they've got to go from one step to the other. You gotta go through that process. And in that process, there is actually now a thought that there should be the 6th step of the grief. We're talking 5. The 6th step is widely promoted as finding meaning. So when you do that work, you go through what you go through, what you do with all of that. And the thought leaders believe that you find meaning, you do something with it. You don't just get better because of your family. It may cause you to become part of an association or start your own association, plant trees, take kids on walks, whatever it looks like. You do something with it, and that's my contribution, for today.
No, that's great. I mean, essentially what you're talking about is exactly where we're trying to be with this podcast. We've had those steps. We've done all that stuff you're talking about. And now what are we doing with it? And of course, with the help of JP, we're putting our life, we're putting our vulnerability online because we understand as men, other men need to hear these stories. So that is right on time with, I mean, part of probably JP's vision. I won't speak for him, but right on time. Yeah, thank you for that, by the way. Right on time. Fellas, so we're about to close out. And due to time, I got about 9 more minutes when we close out. But I do have one last question. Unless anyone else has one.
I have one.
Okay.
JP, what gave you this idea?
G-O-D.
God and me needing something that I didn't know that I needed. When I was going through the crazy things that life can bring, and I'm guilty of shutting everybody out and trying to figure things out on my own. Sometimes I would let Julio and Dominique know what was going on. Sometimes I didn't. But me needing that safe space for me when I needed it, and I knew it was other brothers that needed these safe spaces. And when God gave me the vision, how could I not? It would be robbery if I didn't create these safe spaces for brothers to have these uncomfortable conversations, for Larry to come share his testimony, for us to make sure that at 50, 45, 50, we're going to get our colonoscopy. Because at the end of the day, if the man is healed, the family is healed. If the family is healed, then the community is healed. So it will be robbery if I was disobedient and didn't listen to God and not create this vision. So all credit to God. I can't take any of the credit. And just like, I can't remember who it was, all of the pain that I went through. And when I tell you over the last 6 months alone has been an emotional whirlwind. And God gave me the vision. You just have to just keep going and you just have to trust me. Because everything that you're going through is going to work for my good. And because he trusts me, I have to be willing and pour into brothers. Because if you don't have any tests, how can you have a testimony? If you hadn't been in any mess, how can you have any miracles? If you hadn't had any trials, there can be no trials. So I literally, when I tell you these last 6 months have been rough, and people wouldn't know it because, I'm posting every day, encouraging everybody else, because that's what God has called me to do. So I hope.
I'm not gonna sell past the close. That is amazing right there. So we definitely thank you all. I'm sorry, you had another question?
Yeah,
Hey, man.
I heard his voice.
Come on,
96.
First of all, proud of you guys.
Thank you.
I think you put a lot of life, leading up with me. I've been up with you all and see this, my heart really joy. Purpose, we're always trying to find our purpose, right? And it all looks different to everybody, but to be able to bring together different perspectives, give other people a glimpse of what it might look like. I think it's very, very powerful. And I'm glad to be able to support you all. I got a question, JP. When we talked about a couple years ago about I want to do a podcast. What advice would you give me in terms of trying to get something? Mine not, for me, I was I'm gonna do something with coaching, called pick and choose for coaching. Because we, as coaches, saturate so much, and you don't let a lot of stuff go that we shoot. And I was getting some stuff, throwing stuff in, and I knew that there was a way for me to get it out. So what steps do I have to take to try to make that possible?
First off, consult with God on who it is that needs to hear your voice. Whether it's the students, whether it's the coaches, whether it's the teachers, whomever you're called to, always get that confirmation from God. Two, once you get that confirmation of God, the first thing is gonna be the hardest thing, and that's just to step out there and do it. And it can be something, because if you remember 5 years ago in the pandemic, I had a whole other podcast called the JP Experience when I was talking about race relations, politics, sports, and music. But unbeknownst to me, that was the seed that sown for this to come to fruition. And even before I did this, I was like, God, give me the people that need to be here. And just as sure as day, he lined them up. And so the hardest part is just getting started and figure out who your target audience is and consult and get your marching orders from God. And then once you get clarity on that, just start buying equipment. If you want to go just audio and put it on, what is it, Spotify or Apple, I mean, you can do that. And everybody was asking me to bring the JP Experience back, but I think that season was over, and I wanted to do things totally different, and I wanted to be intentional about who my target audience is. But get confirmation from God, get clarity on your target audience, and just take the first step, get some good equipment, and just start talking. Because you remember when we were going to the Clave in New Orleans, and we were listening to Kevin Hart. And I was like, man, if Kevin Hart can do that. It was the Plastic Cup Boys. And I told that, I was like, man, when we get back, I'm gonna start this podcast. And we were stuck at the house, and that's when I formed the JP Experience. And if you go back, because it's still on Apple and Spotify, man, if you went back and listened to some of those episodes, Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey. Like I was a tad bit militant. But it's funny how 6 years later, how things have shifted. So just get started, bro. And you know I got your back. And Toy may also have something, because he has a podcast. And he may have some good insight for you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I can talk to you after the show. We can share some stuff, but you have in your hand what you get started with that phone. That's all you need. I have one last question. Miss, you had a question?
I don't necessarily have a question, but I do have a request.
Okay.
First of all, thank you all for what you brought today, and I appreciate being a woman to be able to hear all of these things. But I'm also a single mom, and I have a son that'll be 20 in a few months, and I just ask that as you consider what you're doing next and where you're going, would you consider having something where you're inviting young men into the room? Because I heard a couple of you say that you grew up and you didn't know your dad, or you did not have a relationship with him, and there were some things that you learned after 40. I believe that if we can catch some of these young men early and you can give them that wisdom now, that some of the things that you may have experienced, they may not have to go through it. But if you all would just consider doing something for that younger male, 16 to a certain age, or because they're learning early, they are starting early, they are quote unquote smarter but weaker, I would like to say. And so just thank you again. But even as you consider going forward, try to, if you would just consider something with the young men, because I would love to have had my son in the room today.
So two things. Good, glad you said that. You're the right, right? And I was gonna listen to Jay the other week. hopefully we can do another here. I think we get some traction. Of course, we got to check with everybody's schedule, so we thank you for that. So there will be another one, right? And that told you ready to close. June 13th, put this on your calendar, men. And I don't have a registration. Well, I don't have a fee yet. It probably will be a small fee. June 13th, we're gonna do. This will be through Kingdom Life and the Urban CEO. We're gonna do called the Man Code Mandate. Man Code Mandate. We're gonna deal with mind, money, and mission. All right, my therapist, and who's not my friend, who's a part of this, is not able to really make these. Dr. Alden Tark will be here. He'll talk about mine. Pastor Paul will be here. He'll probably carry that money aspect, and I'll be talking about mission. All right, and with that said, as Toy close out, if you want to today, we don't no pressure. You know, it takes stuff to do this. We want to make sure that we can continue this. I just ask if you consider sowing a seed into the podcast today, whatever you have, right? Put it up here if it's physical, or you can talk to JP how to give you electronic, because it's going to go to Beyond the Cave. Doesn't come to Kingdom Life unless he wishes to do that, right? But we want to support our own. All right, so I just want to say that. So put down June 13th from 10 to 2, 10 a.m. to 2. It'll be here unless we have a big crowd, right? And I'll give out later what the registration will be. And then it's always open to young men. Let me say that. We always open to that. Always. All right.
All right, well, this has been Beyond the Cave podcast. Do us a favor, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, and of course, Facebook. If you guys like what you've seen today, of course, subscribe. That really helps the podcast out also. Again, thank you all for being here for our podcast, our live recording. Again, to our hosts that have helped us today, I want to thank Julio, of course, for chiming in, JP for chiming in, of course, Jesse, and Dominique, and Steve. And my name is Toy McCoy. Thank you again, Beyond the Cave podcast. Go ahead and subscribe now. Thank you all.